Testing.
Go down and you go like this. This is the back of the whip. You gotta get the. That's what's gonna hurt.
You ready?
Good.
Good morning, Shedders.
Yo.
What's going on, JT?
Yo.
Heather Marie.
Come over here.
Sheila.
What's up, Bobby?
What's going on, Bobby? Don.
That's Bobby Boucher. That's how he be talking in the comments.
What's going on, everyone? Heather Marie. It's good to see everyone. Morning, Mary Palmer. Everyone, make sure you... Becky. What's up, Becky? Hammerling. Elias. Hopefully you're watching. Everyone like and feel free to share the stream if that somehow floats your boat. We appreciate it when you do.
Good morning, Don. Good morning, Sheila. Good morning, Heather. What's up, J-E-T? Yeah, I gotta change your name again to E-T. My dog, E-T. What's up, Sarah? Good morning. Morning. Love seeing happy faces. What's up, Jordan? How you doing, man?
Good. You know, starting the day off with a little family drama, so.
Oh, boy.
Hey, Becky. I don't think I've ever seen Becky.
Wait, are we live right now?
We are. So you're semi-joining us at the beginning of the show here.
You're not on camera
yet. You're not on camera yet.
Nah.
Oh, okay.
He like, damn, I gotta get my face ready. Hold on.
More so. Like, I gotta take my medication.
No, we were just running. We're just running late, but you were ready to come in. So rather than just have you sitting there, I figured you can join us for the beginning BS that we go through every morning. Good morning, Ava.
Airbnb in Newport last night, and I sunburned.
So Don, I have everything ready, and I'm doing it right after the show. I promise. Yesterday ran long, and
talk good. I have until 11, and you were.
But I have everything for you. I have the shirt, the tie. I have your bath truffles.
Ava, I didn't know you was the Earth and we was the Moon.
Well, if you were a flat earther, that would mean we were a blue LED light, apparently, because we learned that on the show a while ago.
Said, make the talk good. I have until 11, and you were late again.
Oh, is Rick in the comments? Good morning, Rick Nye.
So.
And Amanda Holland.
She said, I mean, hi, handsomes. Wow, the emotions you went through in 30 seconds.
Oh, that's awesome that you guys got your shirts. We might have more shirts and stuff
11
here.
is nearby.
Don, you might just win again today because that's how this show.
Got our shirts finally.
That's how this show works.
How both of y'all get shirts? I was
No,
supposed to get at
they
least
ordered
one.
them. They ordered them.
I was supposed to get at least one.
Ours should have come in, and they might actually be sitting.
That might be ours.
They might be.
got ours.
Heather Marie, I don't remember you were. Are you supposed to get a tie, Heather Marie?
She said she get a tie because she's on the. She do the background work on the show, so the tie comes mandatory with the. Dang, my man's just got up and left. Damn. Well, all right. This is Disrupt America with Eric Martin. Ha ha ha. Yeah. Here by myself, chilling. Didn't even say where he was going. Just bounce. Just disappear. It's all good. It's all. Oh, there he is. He's back now, I guess.
I went to.
He's back. Well, now this is the show with Eric and Mike.
No, well, our shirt should have come in by now, and I thought they might have been here, so I went to go look. That was up there, but that's not show related. It is now. So I am going to track my order, and Don, you should track your order too, because we don't ship them out.
Never got them.
We don't have the stuff.
Don, I ain't get my stickers neither.
They get made when you order it, and then it gets shipped to you.
She can have my
We never touch it.
I was just gonna use it as a face cover.
Who can have your tie? What? Why is
What's the
everyone so
faces?
generous with my
What's the faces asking
prized
for your
possessions?
tie? Heather was asking
My
for
prized
your tie.
possessions.
Definitely, because look at one man's trash is another man's treasure.
Yeah, Jay's like, hello that. Jay's like, I don't even own a collared shirt. I don't got that many buttons on a shirt. What do I need? No, actually, I know Jay does. Jay.
One man's trash.
Let's start the. We got a. Good morning, Averill.
This dude.
It's
Dang it.
So there's a single fly, and he's big.
Like
He
he's the one.
bounces
You
off
know
and
them
stuff.
flies that sound like bees, but they just flies and they got some like weight to them, and you can tell like they wings be like tired from carrying them. We got one of those in the house, and I already got PTSD from bees because I was with Averill, and for some reason every time I'm around Averill, there seems to be bees. And bees seem to not like me when I'm around Averill. So, yeah, I got stung in the neck. This bee tried to take my life. Literally tried to take my life. He got me in the neck by the jugular. And I was a little messed up for a few days. I couldn't sleep. I couldn't think. I kept hearing buzzing sounds every morning. And it wasn't my alarm. It was horrible. And then the crazy part is the bee got stuck in my shirt. And so I can feel the buzzing. After he stung me, I can feel him like trying to crawl out. And I had to like finish him off. And it was rough. But Averill just, look, she's laughing in the comments because she knows every time I get around her, some bees is trying to attack me. Oh, and then wait, not only after that, his homies tried to get me. It was a bunch of his homies after they found out he got hit. They all tried to come after me, so I was getting chased by bees for like 3 hours. Averill just thought that was hilarious.
They are literally individually sending out like every single thing. I think.
Yo, I still got a scar on my neck.
Oh no, it's not.
I still got a scar on my neck. I can't really show y'all right now, but it's still there, and it's rough.
It was delivered 2 days ago.
What, the shirt?
Yeah, I think it's in a whole bunch of them, a whole bunch of stuff. I think it's in the mailbox.
Nah. Mail truck kept it. He been watching the show. He was like,
Right.
yo.
That limited edition merch. I got
Hey,
it.
my man was watching the show. Was like, what? I know that area. I think I deliver over there. Hold on. Let me check these packages. He's scrolling through them. He's like, yep, 2 shirts, 2 stickers. I'm good. He probably in the comments right now like, damn, I hope they don't find
All right.
And I try to be nice to bees. Like, I understand bees is, like, vital to the world. Like, they, you know, they are heartbeats. They're the heartbeat of the world. But at the same time, you know, I can't have them on my neck threatening my life. At that point, I'm scared. It's a lot of noise and a lot of moving around.
And a lot of bee stinger.
Yo, I'm petrified of bees. And it's crazy because I was stung by a bee when I was younger. Look, I was stung by a bee when I was like, it was during a football game, like Pee Wee football game. I got stung like right here somewhere, like near my eye, in my helmet during a play. It was the craziest thing ever. And I never got stung after that. But then all of a sudden, hanging out with Averill, and something that never happened in 15, 16 years. Now all of a sudden, bees is attacking me. Every time I get around her. Interesting.
So we should get today's giveaway going.
Yeah, let's get the giveaway because I'm thinking about bees.
And now that you put all that stuff all over you, all those bees are gonna be like,
Bees don't
what's
like
that?
shea butter.
They're gonna be like shea butter and chocolate. My
bees
favorite.
Don't like shea butter, and
Look,
it's got salt in it too.
Can I tell you something? Bees, if you think about it, bees are the same color as both shea butter and chocolate together. So you just put shea butter on yourself. So you're like a giant bee magnet right now if you go outside.
No, I only become a bee magnet when I'm around Averill. There's nobody else. Nate ain't got that. When I'm chilling with Nate, the only thing that happen is weird things happen. Like, these weird situations happen when I'm with Nate. Like, we get locked out of the car.
You find ways to get in.
We have to use a stick to get back in the car.
Wait, Sarah's giving you a big booby hug.
Big booby hugs. Eric, what?
All right. So,
Sarah, now I don't want Jose knocking at my door with a shotgun.
By the way, she might not be talking about her. It could be her elderly aunt who's well endowed. It might not be what you're thinking.
Oh.
Just saying. By the way, these are the mugs because somebody did bring it up. The mugs are sweet. I don't know. Get yourself a mug, I guess. I don't want to give away a mug. I don't have an extra mug to give away right now. And then it's a real pain to order it. But I do.
Look, y'all, Mike don't even use his mug, so he's saying he don't give it away. That just means he want the mug. I'm just letting y'all know.
No, that mug is already for somebody.
Man, that mug been on the counter for 2 weeks. That's somebody ain't watched the show and seen that they mug been sitting right here on display. Yeah, I'm just letting y'all know. Anybody wanted a mug, Mike just ain't giving it to y'all. That's basically what he's saying.
No. See, the mug is perfectly new and unused, though. That's the point, right? See, look,
Man,
never been used.
He's been showing that mug every day.
It's beautiful.
For 2 weeks, and supposedly it's somebody's mug, and somebody who's watching the show is like, yo, I've been waiting on my mug. And Mike is sticking his fingers inside, twirling it, showing it the camera.
Well, I would suggest you wash. That's right, Cheryl. It is Cheryl's mug. Good morning, Cheryl.
No, I ain't mean to snitch like that, but God.
No one's used it. It's literally, I just took it out of the package. It's just been sitting here. I wanted to show it off.
Cheryl, like, yo, I don't want the mug. Like, cool. You can have the
Cheryl
mug.
definitely wants the mug. So Jen, yeah, we love that you wear your shirt out and that people are looking at it. And Cheryl, don't worry, this mug's for you. Good morning, Jody. Good morning, Jonathan Abrams.
Oh, wait, hold on now.
Liked our stream. We appreciate everyone who likes our stream.
I
We
just
can see it, by the way.
Say that Jody,
when you guys hit the like button or the heart button, we can see it.
Jody hurt my feelings yesterday. She had some oatmeal cookies and I didn't get them. And then she told me she had oatmeal cookies and didn't give them to me, which is even more sad. And then the fact that she's going to try to give me them oatmeal cookies today after they've been cooked and a day old, that's really going to hurt my feelings. So I hope, Jody, if you're listening, I hope there's a new pack of oatmeal cookies being made and not, the same oatmeal cookies you made yesterday for me. I'm just wondering. I don't know. But, yeah. Some oatmeal cookies that wasn't delivered to their destination. I know yours say delivered and yours is 2 days old. Mine was delivered yesterday and mine's 24 hours old.
But mine's not food. And yours is food.
So that means mine's
perishable. Yours is perishable.
I gotta throw it away. No returns.
Whew. Mug.
I'm thinking someone's holding out on you. Who's holding?
Wait, who's what?
You got oatmeal cookies? You ain't?
I don't know. I have no idea. I don't think so.
Hold on, Jody. Finish that. Finish them next comments. Come on, keep them coming. Let's. These stories ain't connecting. Somebody in the comments look confused, and somebody said next to me look confused. And them the only two that got access to the cookies.
So back to the contest.
No, back to the
giveaway. Back to the giveaway. No, because I know
my man
Jordan's being really cool and patient with us. Jordan's like,
never again.
I can't believe anyone watches this show.
I'm just doing some work now.
Coding a little bit. I was like, hey, well.
Like, they gonna keep ignoring me.
Jordan's like, I got stuff to do, so whatever.
I mean,
guys.
there's revolution happening, so, so much data.
Yes, no, totally.
I've said enough already. I plead the fifth. Okay. Well, I guess we know who's guilty and who's innocent.
The world may never know.
Oh, I'm the judge and the jury, so after this show, somebody's going to get a
Listen,
nice
for all I know, there's cookies in the car. I have no idea. That's a very distinct possibility.
And we sat in the car for how long this morning? A good 35, 40 minutes?
Look, you worked on the farm and you put in some hard work, and then I don't know. There could be.
I wouldn't continue from there. I would not continue from there. I would just say I was wrong.
I'm perfectly willing to admit that I might be.
I had possession of the cookies and I did not tell you of these cookies.
If cookies in the car makes me wrong, then maybe I'm wrong. Then
no.
Hold on.
Maybe.
If cookies being in the car makes me wrong, and cookies are in the car, then I am wrong. Then I'm totally wrong.
Oh, okay. I was just making sure, because, yeah. All right, we can get back to the rest of the show. I just know now that we got this figured out.
But listen, if anything about oatmeal cookies is wrong, then I don't.
Now the next thing that I'm gonna be mad about is that they actually sat in the car for over 10 hours. So apparently,
but you've only been up for.
I'm sure that the flour and the egg and all that stuff is pretty much
Ava. Jordan
ruined.
Clark is coming on.
Yeah,
He's waiting patiently. Yeah,
we finna get on with this.
We just need to do this stupid contest. We need to do the stupid contest.
I guess we got to talk.
Everyone is here for Jordan, and everyone is here for the contest.
This cookie situation is rough, stressful.
Well, we can.
There's a lot of stuff going on right now. Cookies would be nice.
We could include Jordan in the contest conversation. It's just we need to get. Good morning, Johnny Nugs. We need to get the contest going because that's what we do. We get that part going, and then we talk to guests.
Hopefully, Cookie's not involved in this contest.
No, the cookies, actually, it was very cool out. It was very temperate. And I'm sure
Jordan,
they're perfectly fine.
And so today...
I love it. He said, and scene. Next.
Let's get us some...
I think we should just always do the guess your favorite ocean animal, because I feel like everybody's ocean animal is different.
What was the answer last time?
Well, so we've had out of like 70 so contests. Like a lot of them have been different, but the sea animal thing we've done 3 times now, I think, or 4 times. And, like,
Yesterday's was manatee.
yeah, it was a guess. Their guess was their favorite sea animal was manatee. Eric's, I don't
I
remember.
had 2 of them.
What was your original one?
The first one was the mantis shrimp. Or
The
mantis.
Okay, I guess seal that time.
Oh,
Yeah, and then the second one was SpongeBob.
yeah, which was sort of like a trick answer. Because we didn't
I
actually.
like where your mind is at, though.
You like that, right? And then it's
I'm
crazy
from
somebody
Egypt.
guessed it though. That's the crazy part. Somebody
Two
guessed
people,
it.
2 people guessed it actually, which
I
was
was
even the
like,
crazier part.
damn.
And one of them was Bobby.
And Laura, I think, was the other one.
Well, I think it just speaks to, I guess, people on your frequency then, because
People
it's
know I'm
about how you
goofy.
communicate.
So Jordan, do me a favor and message Heather right now. If you're able to message Heather.
Yeah.
It can be the same chat as Heather and I. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
And let her know what your answer is, so that before people start in earnest, which they do immediately, she can be watching out.
Oh, okay. Now I get to set up my favorite. Oh man.
Yes. And hold on, if you need some inspiration, it's okay to maybe
Can you
Google for
repeat it
something.
again real quick?
Give yourself a quick Google, you
What is
know?
the question? Like, what is the framing?
Oh, it's just any ocean creature.
The ocean creature.
Yeah, any ocean animal. I mean, it can come on land too if it's both. Like,
I got you.
And it doesn't have to be like something crazy, but it doesn't have to be like shrimp, you know?
Got you. It won't be shrimp, I promise.
All right, cool.
Let's see. Well, can I get like a few minutes, I think, and then...
Yeah.
yeah, we should have asked you before, but
Yeah, I didn't mean to set you up like that. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It's a lot of pressure. I know. No, it actually is a lot of pressure. And Heather Marie Brown says we screw up the winners anyway, so Excuse me.
people be really getting offended about being
I understand.
right
Look,
and winning,
right?
and I'm like, dang, it's a free prize. Like, relax.
no, but they're putting their time. I get it. They're putting their time into it, right? They're investing themselves into this prize. By the way, Jordan, there's certain people that are like multiple time winners because they figured out how to win, and they do it. There's a woman, Trish, that will show up at the end of the show because she knows that sometimes we do this thing where we give 2 prizes away, the first correct winner and then the last correct winner, and we put a countdown. We make it totally like blood sport, where I put a timer on the screen, and so both the first correct guess at some point, whoever correct, but then we put the timer up, and the last person to actually type the correct guess, which nobody knows what the correct guess is yet, also wins a prize.
So
and
instead
that's
of giving
crazy.
away 1, we give away 2.
Right, which is a lot of pressure to give away 2 prizes, but I'll tell you what,
A lot of pressure.
that makes it. And Dawn, by the way, won both yesterday. So Dawn, this woman Dawn, she got the first guess right, and then she was going.
And she
at
don't
the end.
realize that she disqualified for the next couple weeks because of her little antics.
don't do that. I mean, I'm coming from I used to teach fourth grade.
correct guess is
Whoops.
win.
So basically, when you have incentives, it's all about the rules. And if you just stick to the rules, and then people won't get upset. I mean, they can get upset, but that's a reflection of them. But if you change the rules or you aren't clear, you're setting a precedent. And that's what's like, I feel you. Like, but again, prizes involved. Oh, I'm playing, my hands up. Like, why'd you change? Because that was me. I was that kid. So,
Exactly.
I submitted my answer, by the way.
I feel you, by the way, and I think that if you can figure out your own way to increase your odds to win, and it's still within the rules, then you should do it for sure.
And if the person in authority don't like it, then I should be more explicit in my instruction next time or moving forward. And I think that's where just we as a society fail to communicate when like things go wrong, and then people are upset because people got creative. And I'm like, yo, if you go teach high school, and I promise you'll learn to like use that part of your brain much more quickly.
Jordan, no one I know these days has ever heard of it, but have you ever heard of junior achievement?
Like 4-H type stuff, like
It was, but it was kind of like for straight up business. They'd teach kids how to do
Okay, the
business.
business version of okay, got you.
So back when I was in high school, they forced my economics class to do it, which is basically like make a company. You get a bunch of kids, like you vote president, vice president, you decide what your company is. You go to your parents, beg them to invest $1 each or something, right? And these kids end up making like tie racks and stuff, right? And trying to sell these tie racks, and then they give a return on investment to whoever invested, and it's supposed to teach you how to like a kid how to run a little mini business, right? So I didn't like the idea of doing tie racks when they forced us to do it. So I read the rule book and figured out that we can improve on an existing product. I asked for junior achievement stickers and talked them into the idea that a sticker on a box of M&Ms meant that if you bought it from me, that you knew that you were supporting kids learning how to run a company, right? And it was like very cyclical. Like, I mean, I found a loophole. They shouldn't have let me do it in the first place. But I was within the rules. No, hold on. So I was within the
They
rules.
should have. If it was in the rules, then they should have let you.
They did, and we did it. And a few months later, it was time for International Junior Achievement Conference in Indiana, where kids from all over the world who do junior achievement came in. And we went in, and basically at the end of the week, the head of the conference called us in and said, "I'm very sorry." We were worried, by the way, we were going to get sent home for like sneaking out at night or, in the middle of the night to like kiss girls and stuff, right? And he calls us in and he says, I have some bad news for you. And we're like sweating. And he's like, "We're not going to give your team an award this year." And I was immediately relieved. My friend was immediately like, "What kind of award are you talking about? And why aren't we getting our award?" Right? And he's like, "So basically, you guys, the record for a return on investment by a junior achievement company historically had been somewhere around like $4 or $5 or $6 per $1. Ours was like $18 and something cents per dollar. So we had parents that had given their kid $20 investment and then got a return of like 300 and something bucks like 2 months later, right? But Junior Achievement was concerned that if they celebrated and lauded our achievement, that it would encourage every kid out there to say, "I'm not going to like try to make something new and be inventive and work hard to sell it. I'm just going to like find the loophole and figure out how to easily monetize off of it and win," right? And on one hand, there was a part of me that was like, it's nice to be recognized when you figure out something really cool. But on the other hand, I totally got it, because had they given me that award, they might as well just shut down. Like, they're trying to like be a good and wholesome, like, we want kids to like, and I don't, and I don't know. I see your expression, and on the other hand, I sort of,
I really am.
well, on the other hand, I sort of get it, because no one's teaching kids like, hey, here's how to like really go out and hustle in a way that follows the rules and be successful, right? Like, no one told me like, hey, why don't you go figure out a loophole and find.
No one told you not to, and like we're Americans and we're supposed to be innovative, and so I agree wholeheartedly with that sentiment. I feel like it's like the story of my life sometimes, where like I've had people say, "Jordan, you're doing too good, so like we need you to stop or slow down," or worse, like they make it seem like it's my fault, which a lot of people don't know, or maybe they do know, but I have PTSD, and so it's like I struggle with like understanding why people treat me the way they do because of like intersecting marginalized identities, and so when as a kid, like I was usually the only Black kid in class. I grew up in Eastern Washington. And so oftentimes I just assumed it was race. And like, I'm learning to understand as I like work on my memoir and understand people's reactions is that like, I think people are just intimidated that I was smart, but they don't see that I don't feel like I'm smart. I don't believe I'm smart, which is why I'm so good at a lot of things, because I'm trying to gain some sort of praise or validation for something that I think people just assume I have. And so when it came to, it was usually like debate tournaments or contests, it sometimes would turn to race, but oftentimes I'm understanding it was like this intellectual humility where people just didn't understand where I, as a student who experienced trauma, needed to be good at something. And even in college, Jordan, you won the oratory contest too many times. It's going to make students feel like I'm like, wait, am I doing that? Like, and that's where I don't think when I became a teacher, I made sure that from a position of authority, I understood that when I communicated the rules, that it was my fault. And that's like where humility comes in. And it's hard being humble to say, look, you won. We're going to give you the award, and we're just going to frame it this way. We're going to say, we're going to change the rules moving forward. And I'm like, I'm cool with that. That's my legacy, yo. I did so good. They had to change the rules and like, I think, again, a lot of people who have that can relate to that. So it's not like a race thing or anything. It's just like being good at something in society, not letting you be good at it.
And by the way, they did completely overhaul the rules for the next year so that no other kid could. And you know what it was is that most of the time it was younger, like we were seniors in high school. So like we had our stuff together a little bit more than like the 7th or 8th grader who has like a parent running their group who's like, yeah, kids, I think you should make tie racks, or I think you should make cup holders to sell, right? And like kind of forcing the kids into maybe, doing something that, can a 7th or 8th grader, with a parental, supervisor be like, no, I want to do, I figured out, I'm going to do candy. I want to find stickers and put them on candy and sell this stuff, right? And by the way, we were in the 3rd largest high school in Massachusetts, which had just recently banned candy sales. And we got, so we suddenly, like, there were kids that for like 3 weeks were used to having candy every single day, and they had no candy for a few weeks, and suddenly we swooped in with like one class full of kids that like 30 kids that were suddenly every day going out with like a backpack full of candy to sell it. And we couldn't buy enough candy. Like,
that's not unique though. Like, I think we've seen across, like, I can speak to that experience of when adults or people in positions of authority banned things that like are basically not a necessity, but like sugar. It's a sugar thing. And whether or not people like it, it's addictive. And so like kids will go to extreme measures. And so it's like a drug almost. And so if we reframe it and understand that, like, well, maybe we just teach kids that they shouldn't be eating like hot Cheetos for breakfast because it's not healthy, like digestively. Well, like, that's what I'm trying to communicate, not taking the Cheetos away from you. And that's, again, where we fail to see that children are capable of feeling like they can make adult decisions for whatever reason, and failing to do our job and help like create the environment where people understand. And that's, so.
Jordan, did you message your favorite sea animal to Heather yet?
A while ago.
Oh, thank God, because all I see are people slamming, hey, Omanique.
Hey.
Why are you looking at me?
I was waiting for you to say, Omanique just appeared in the comments. I was just waiting for him to say hi to Omanique. That's all. He's not saying hi to Omanique. I don't know.
You see what this dude be doing?
I have emotional intelligence.
Golly, yo. What's up? What you want me to say hi to? Hi, Omanique. How are you today?
I could break it down for you, like mathematically in terms of algorithms if you want, where it's like, it happened earlier when he got up to leave and you were like, oh, so you're just going to leave me? I was like, ooh, there's a little bit of fear there. Like, and then it's like heteronormative male behavior of like, I think he's saying I miss you. Next time, please effectively communicate where you're going.
Exactly.
I don't feel like you're just going to leave me and we're going to start.
Exactly. Come on. See, we might need a new co-host. Might need a new...
That's what it's like. I gained this skill, I guess, as a kid.
Come on. He read my mind. He know what I'm talking about, because I don't know what you insinuating.
It's predictive analytics, though. It's people's behaviors.
Hey, Omanique, how you doing? It's good to see you tuned in when Jordan, came in. I think that Jordan is somebody that we need to really focus on and pay attention. You guys are funny.
So Jordan, forgive me, and welcome Sharon. So Sharon, just in time for the contest is well on its way. We're all picking. Whoa. Eva. Whoa.
Ava said the prize is Jordan
you.
Clark.
The prize is you.
Okay, let's ring them up. Ring them up.
Well, I to be fair, I feel uncomfortable with like people putting values. Like, I'm not for sale.
Oh,
Sorry.
well, no, you lost. Sorry.
How about lease? Are you leasable?
No, I usually give away my knowledge for free.
I
So,
got you. That's good. That's good. That's good.
I don't know, just be a good person and maybe just hang out, like good energy.
You know what?
So
Ava
if
is
you're
saying that
put
she
values
and
on emotions. Don't get me wrong. We can put dollar values on things, just not like people.
Ava in the comments is saying that she and Omanique are here for Jordan Clark. But I don't know. I think Ava's also here. Ava likes to win the contest too.
Most people are here. 90% of the people are here for contests.
I mean, yeah, everyone's pretty much here for, and you, Jordan, and you. They're not here for us though. They just
I'm here for y'all.
we've fooled everyone into coming here to watch the show, and it's not for us. It's just because we give away prizes every day, which, by the way, totally like puts pressure on all the other shows to have to also give away prizes.
It's capitalism, like
which is amazing for the consumer. It's amazing for the consumer because
right.
we're changing the way that these shows have to be done.
No, that's what I'm like. Well, I mean, no one's forcing anybody to like be incentivized by free stuff.
Mm-hmm. But free stuff draws people.
Right, but it's how you frame it. Because you use force a lot, and I'm like, damn, I don't know how to read it anymore. I thought it meant it was a negative thing, but
oh no, I like to frame it. I like to frame this show's success negatively. Like, there's no good reason for us to be successful. It's just like,
well, that's just humility.
Exactly. Thank you. So looks like the contest is going pretty good. Ava, you should try a contest. Excuse me.
I'm a winning fool.
The only reason why I brought it up, Jordan, and interrupted our conversation is because somebody was asking what the prize was today, and we hadn't announced it yet. And I think we should do Infused Jam from Averill.
Hey, Averill, look it. Let me just say something before we come up with Averill being the Infused Jam again. Averill, I did not participate in the pickings of what we are giving away. Every day we sit here and it's not talked about until we actually start the contest, similar to today. And most of the time when we go, oh, what should we give away? I sit there and think, hey, maybe we should give away something other than Averill's Jam. But then Mike is on the other hand thinking, hey, maybe we should only give away Averill's Jam and nothing else. So I'm just letting you know I'm not part of this.
Any additional context to your earlier comments you want to provide, Jordan? Any more of that emotional IQ that may have just
EQ?
Yeah.
I'm just saying this is how it works. I literally come here and I'm just like, hey, we got some stuff on this table. We got some ties. We got plenty of ties to give away, but I guess those are used. Somebody uses them, so I don't know. We have an abundance of things around, and we always choose Averill's Jam. That's all I'm saying.
Well, maybe you can make like a wheel chart or something, and then you can like spin it or a dice or like get creative, so that way you can feel.
See, what my idea was to go to the store and get a big mason jar and then fill it up with jelly beans. And then every day we take some jelly beans out or add some, and you go, hey, guess how many jelly beans it is. And not me, but somebody sits there and count these jelly beans and get the number, because I'm not counting them, but we can volunteer in the stands who would love to.
What if you got a jar of jelly beans and you guessed how much was in it, and then you just said, y'all guess how much my guess is in this jar, and then you save somebody the hassle of having to. Or you could weigh one jelly bean and then do some math, and then, if you have a good...
How about we just hire you to come up with the stuff? I mean, it seems like you're very...
He is the data guy.
I'm learning to say no in like healthy ways, because that sounds really fun, and maybe I can make like a spinner or something, or a digital jelly bean thing.
My man said,
Jordan,
Bro, that was the nicest way I ever heard somebody say no. I'm learning how to say no. It's like, yo, I'm trying to say F no, but look, I want to be nice to you because we on TV.
I mean, if these were emojis, maybe I could communicate my emotions more authentically.
Yeah.
I love it.
So and by the way, Ava, and I understand because there are some people that are truly here to hear you talk about your stuff, and I know we haven't gotten into it yet, Jordan. But you know, so Ava's a little frustrated. She's like, I've been here for 5 minutes. I'm not hearing. I want more Jordan. I want less.
Fair, I think she said 6.
6, yeah. But what I would say though is that, you know, unless you're in a rush, I don't think that this is necessarily a bad.
Oh, no,
I think we're leading
leading
into it. You know what I'm saying? We're all having fun. I think if Ava was if Ava had a PR person, they'd tell her she shouldn't be saying that.
Ooh.
Oh, well, let's not speak for women.
Oh, I'm speaking for the PR person that would represent women.
Well, touche. I thought about that after I said it.
Jordan, I love you being on the show, but
no,
I do want
to. Funny.
I do want to totally get into why we had you come on, because you've actually been doing some amazing data collection in both the cannabis community in and how it relates to economic empowerment and social equity and people of color, and just helping to sort of drill into a lot of the numbers and metrics, and trying to give us some views as to what some of that data means. So rather than me continuing to talk about it, I want to let you talk about it so that we can all find out some more about what's going on.
Yeah. So we could do a couple of ways. I don't know if I'm allowed. If I could share my screen, I could like share the screen and show the website. We can drop the link also in the chat maybe, and people can kind of explore along. And this is a draft.
If you drop the link in the chat, I'll pin it so this way it'll hover where everyone can see.
Okay. Computer is old and is not used to running so many applications at once. Hey, there it is. And then, do you want me to share my screen or just talk through? I guess it would be cool if I could share my screen because I'm going to be looking at it and I feel bad like sharing.
You should. I think if you share it, we'll all see.
Okay.
We'll all see what's going on, and I'll be looking for your comment to come through so that I can pin it.
Okay. Boom. I think I'm sharing screen now. Is it showing up on your end?
It is. I'm doing some resizing in case anyone's wondering, so this way I can make sure I get like the whole picture in there.
And I just like I said, it's an issue with technology being in like the transformative tech space. So like part of my issue with this is only the first part, so I just dropped the link, but I don't have like my laptop's like 10 years old, and so it's running like a lot of running models or like running memory. I think I use memory to run like the program for just testing out this site. And the first time I did it, I had like 7 tabs because I wanted all the data in one spot in like one location, and just my computer couldn't handle it. And so it's been a frustrating journey, but I definitely enjoyed it in terms of like teaching. Like I taught myself how to code. The whole story is on Facebook and writing more about it, but like just basically because I'm a graduate student at Northeastern and teachers couldn't really teach me. I would lose points for like weird reasons, and people would be like, "Oh, that's just like coding life," and but people don't understand that I take things very personally. Like I have visions, but I saw like when I took this GIS class, Geographic Informational Systems class, I'm sitting there and I'm just like, okay, what do I want my project to be? because this class is boring and they talk about the same shit. And I'm like, oh, well, the cannabis, and this is a couple years ago, is coming up. And so I'm just thinking about how can I apply what I'm learning in class to something that's meaningful. And I unfortunately had to switch my major. And so it took me a little bit longer to create this. But ultimately, it's a data dashboard using RStudio. So it's a statistical software that allows you to run basically like Python and Java, like those actual like coding language stuff. You can run it in there. And so for a lot of people who maybe don't have I didn't have a background in coding. I'm an African American studies, political science major. Like I was like, I don't want any math. And the irony is because I taught math after college. But I think it's a full circle of, well, there's a lot of kids who don't like math, and it's because they had really bad math teachers, not because like they're bad at math. And one of my favorite things that I wasn't the best math teacher, but I promise you that my students loved learning math and that they loved thinking about math. And that is the most like the biggest application that you can have in math as it relates to like coding skills. And I'm pretty impressed in terms of like how you can like take like this is the code that's on there, but you can just take words and create something in digital space, like on like a philosophical, metaphorical level that's pretty profound, especially to fourth graders. And so if you're like, yo, if you learn like these patterns and there's like colors, you can see them. So there's lots of ways to get people like that can draw people in. But ultimately, if you have a bad teacher, you're gonna hate this shit too. And I love it. And so I created this dashboard because I wanted people to see what I see when I look at Excel documents, I guess. Because I guess not everybody has the ability to like look at numbers, remember where a location is, remember how many other locations had like, and that's I don't say that to like be like, oh, I'm smart. I mean, that's just to say like, oh, I didn't know you couldn't do that, and that must not be fair if you want to be able to access this industry as it's developing. One of my main motivations after like I think it was a year when I was still struggling to learn this. The Massachusetts Cannabis Control Commission came out. They published a municipality zone tracker, and I've been, I'm a part of the Village PIF cooperative. So if you put on the about, you can read about it. But it's really Goldie and just the mindset of really doing things for the community. I love that, and I really want to bring this data science to the community.
Shout out to Goldie.
Yeah, Goldie, Dominique, Village PIF. And really to all the people who come out and like want to be a part of it. And that's what I mean is like, even if you don't come out, if you want to be a part of it, because that feeling alone it says something. And ultimately this tool is hopefully can help people access and see what, people pay hundreds of dollars, I guess, because when I learned that people were paying to know which, basically the adult use status, like which municipalities had delivery, like because they're not all like, I guess, equal. So it's like, the delivery license came out and you wanted to know which places had a ban or not. Like you can click on it, and I'm working on the rendering, but ultimately you can click on it and it will show you, and you can hover over and see like which towns are not allowing delivery. So if you're in that town, maybe you should find a friend who lives in a different town and start your business there. And
Holy shit! Put a password on this, dude.
On what?
on your app.
Why?
Because I'm already seeing things that businesses would pay for access to your data.
That's my point. It's free. This is I downloaded this from the Massachusetts Cannabis Control. Like I'm waiting to get access to the API, honestly, because it's kind of inefficient to have to download stuff. And anyways,
what are they? Do they normally give outside folks access to their API?
It's all online, right here. Look, sorry, if you click on it, it will take you to the open data portal. And all I did was download this. Sorry, I'm working on not minimizing it, but you can download all the data and then you put it in you read it into R and do a bunch of code, and it will show you this. That's why I was like, why would I have anyone pay for it? Like, it's free. But that's where I'm like, I get, like, when we talk about equity, that's the whole point. I get that people are paying people to be able to do this, but like, I don't know, it took me a couple months, but that's because I had to teach myself how to do it. But now I know how to do it. I can probably do this. Like, and that's why I'm like, oh, I guess. And I struck, people are like, Jordan, you should be a tutor. And I was like, why would I have people pay me to help them? Like, I'll just help you. And that's just kind of who I am. And so I struggled to like, why would I take money for this? But I'm trying to see data.
I hear what you're saying, but you also deserve compassionate compensation.
Thank you. And that's where, again, I just struggle, and I'm trying to start a business, like virtual reality one, big term. But like right now, that's why I like cooperative, because it's like, well, oftentimes I'm very insecure, and so like people's energy and their emotions and their belief and like what I want to do, and like universal basic income and really revolutionary ideas like that's enough alone, like payment for me. And that's where like I think people are weirded out by that, but I'm just like, well, I don't know. I'm oftentimes in my house by myself in my room, staring at a computer, like waking up, doing it over and over because that's what I want to do. We're in a quarantine. Like, why? I haven't really been depressed because I can code.
So as an aside, by the way, and we'll get back to the important cannabis stuff, but 2 years ago, I started a company that was going to do VR and AR, and then I did that, and then I ended up coming back out to Massachusetts and getting into the cannabis space. But I have some interesting ideas and very good connections with Hollywood tech folks that are ready to pay for proof of concepts for stuff. And really, the only thing I was missing was that I just didn't have enough time to like sharpen myself up on Python and a few other languages that are necessary to do some programmatic creation of VR material from legacy material. So basically, programmatically turning television libraries into VR and AR.
Yeah, no, and that's what's like. People are like, "Whoa!" I'm like, "Yeah, that sounds very like what you're doing. That's an industry that's developing early on." I don't even think like your ability to be able to articulate all of that, like that's a privilege. There are people who don't even know that the industry exists, but are like, and that's where it's like access. They just can't act, because I'm sure you did a lot of research. You took a time out of, because it's not out there, and that's where it's like, I feel like among the privileged poor to be able to go to Northeastern, and I go for free. I'm a Martin Luther King fellow. And so I don't pay for class. So that's what's like, oh, well, I withdrew from that class and I switched my major for like, I guess I have to take more classes. But morally, I know I did the right thing for myself. And I'm acknowledging that I'm being able to say that is a privilege. And it's like, I want to give people more opportunity to be able to tell their story through data the way that I can. And that's where I sit in class with these people who honestly, like, this was like, they ain't even that smart. Like, this was like, they have opportunity. And I shouldn't say they're not that smart, but rather there are people equally as capable, because it's not about just intelligence. It's about access and environment. And so, like, I don't know, just my background as a teacher in Lawrence at first and then Boston really helped like solidify my core value, what I'm doing. And this is ultimately to like let everybody have access to the ivory tower in a way that just frankly white people can't. Like, these people with privilege go in and do things for people, and they study people, and I like their words that they say bother me, and then they get bothered that I'm bothered. Like, I got removed from a class because a white woman felt uncomfortable with my presence. And I had a white woman, my former financial aid counselor, call the police on me because of my close proximity and word choice. What they really meant to say is that I can speak white women, and absolutely you're not going to talk to me this way. Where's your manager? I can be Karen too. And it's just like they're not used to a black man articulating and like asserting himself in that way, in like a non-threatening, lethal way. And they have to rely on racial trope or stereotypes to like feel heard. And, this dashboard is a bit part of like, my first one, but there's more. And ultimately it's give people the ability to show people like the impact that they have and to tell their story. And, if I'm trying to go in the cannabis industry, I don't know how to access that open data portal. So thank you for giving it to me. But why should I be like thankful? Why are you calling this equity if I can't access it? But like, this is a draft, but when it's done, you can go to the data portal. Each one, there's application, licenses, and then authority. But you can go to the data tab and download the data, and you can like filter which tabs you want. So you can, in a sense, do what people are paying somebody else to do, but maybe you can't pay somebody, but now you have access to do it yourself. And then, the chart, I'm still toying around with these. They're equity gauges, but like a lot of people got this like, Jordan, it's great, but it's overwhelming. I'm like, yeah, welcome to my brain. But I call them equity summaries. So you can go and say, well, what the left-hand column is areas of disproportionate impact, and the right-hand column is non-areas of disproportionate impact. And so just as like, I don't know, reasonable or logical person, I would expect the Cannabis Control Commission to focus on areas of disproportionate impact, because like that's what they wrote in the law. They have all this pretty beautiful language that says they're committed to it. But then you look at the gauges and they're like red and orange. And I'm like, well, yeah, because like, there are only 32% of the applications, like the people who applied came from those areas. Why didn't y'all like find people and get more people to apply from areas of disproportionate impact? Like, at least you could be proud that you had more people. And I use the word proud, and that's from like, other people's feelings, because they might not like that, because they might be proud of what they did already. But I'm like, but it could be better. And when you see that there are more applications that were approved in non-areas of disproportionate impact, that again is like, well, why didn't you prioritize approving and helping people get applications so that you had more applications that were approved in areas of disproportionate impact? And so
I just happen to have a question about the total apps thing, if it's okay. So in Massachusetts, and I'm trying to remember the exact number, but I believe is there like 18 communities that are considered ADI?
29. So the first page, there's 29 areas of disproportionate impact. They're listed throughout like here, but then there's 4 towns that Boston, Worcester, Springfield, and Lowell. But again, so it's like there's a list. But I was like, yo, that's not, I'm a visual person. So if you click on the map, you can go here, and these areas that are all highlighted are all the areas of disproportionate impact. And like you can also, if it's hard to see, you can change the color. So you can zoom in and see, because like I said, this Worcester, like it's not the whole. So let's if we go back to all of them, this is all of Worcester right here.
Yep.
Sorry. Shit, I forgot about that. But then when you click on it, it only shows you. Looks like it. No. Shows you the parts of Worcester that are in the area, in that zone. So this is also bothering me, because when I think about my students, I'm like, oh, some of them would already get bored and they wouldn't want to do it anymore because it had to reflash. And as like a former special ed teacher, thinking about access, like, well, that's not fair to you that I'm not good enough at coding to know how to fix that. Now, there are ways to accommodate, and you can like have a worksheet and be like, hey, if it does that, you can like solve the questions on the worksheet and then you can get points. Don't get me started on points. But so basically go here, and then what this is the next part is you can click on the application tab. And so then you can see the areas where people applied. So who applied from Worcester. So the botanist, this person has a pending application for a retailer license type. They have 2 applications that they submitted, but they're not in the area. They're in Worcester, but they're not in the area of disproportionate impact. And so when you look, you'll see, oh, well, this one is, it was approved. It has a red dot because I put that there to help people see the economic empowerment, the subtle bias that I, as a researcher, want to put in, because people do it. And it's like, well, I don't know. Again, if economic empowerment is what you say you're measuring as a success for equity, that should be the one highlighted the most. But again, when you go to the equity gauge, you see there are only 16, which again is cool. There's more people in areas of disproportionate impact that applied that were economic empowerment than not. So we know that the people who are economic empowerment, more of them are applying in those areas of disproportionate impact. Like that's a win in the sense of like, well, there's 15 more, but it's also a failure because there's only 16 total. And that's, again, is you're speaking to a limited pool. So I get that you can only have so many people apply who qualify, but that's like a problem. Like it's just, I don't know. So that's where the spatial part comes. And so bringing it more local, we can go over to Boston and we'll switch to licenses now, because applications tells one part of the story around like who's just applying, but like who is actually getting the licenses, what type of license they have. So you'll notice the area, I'm working on it, but the background stayed the same. So we're still looking at the areas of disproportionate impact, because that's what we want to see if that's where people have the licenses. And so these filters are all right here, all affect ADI. They affect the base map. Down here, these are the dots, the circles. Those are the licenses. The bigger the license, the bigger the circle, the more licenses they have. And so if we just wanted to see like final licenses, it's gonna do this. Slash. There you go. Yeah. So then you can see, well, look, the areas of disproportionate impact, there's some of them have final licenses, but it looks like more areas have final licenses that aren't in areas of disproportionate impact. Like that's not a good look. And then you can go to the gauges, and that also communicates that story to you. And this last one is my favorite, and I feel like I'm rambling, but also your face tells me that I'm doing pretty good. So when I think about the industry, it's a lot, and I'm really inspired by like Amanique in terms of like how she articulated the importance of ownership as like a cooperative and as an EE. Because like I'm not economic empowerment. I'm not from Boston in the sense I qualify for social equity because I've been here long enough. But I grew up on a farm in Washington State. We already have like a developed industry. We have our own issues there, but like I couldn't bring equity to Washington. There's nothing in the law that would allow me to do that. But being here and being a part of Village PIF gives me the opportunity to bring my skill and say, look, I can show people what you're saying in just a different way. Because when we talk about ownership, well, these dots all go to a business. And if you zoom out, you can see where the money, who has control of that business. So if I'm going to purchase marijuana, I have a medical card, I can go to a dispensary, I can either like find the name of a business, I can see where their ownership and control is before I even go there. And so if I'm really like, because this is like, you know, I think the cannabis industry prides itself on being kind of woke in the sense of, we buy Ben and Jerry's because they write really dope things about Black Lives Matters. And it makes me feel good when I can write a Facebook status that says, I bought Ben and Jerry's because like they wrote a really dope thing and I want to make my Black friends feel better. Maybe you're not realizing that's what you're doing, but when people do that, I read it and I'm like, cool, you feel better, you're purchasing Ben and Jerry's. But from Ben and Jerry's standpoint, I'm like, that's brilliant. You all are like saying racism is really, really bad. And you're getting a lot of people to like buy your stuff. Like how hard, like it shouldn't be that hard. But when you think about cannabis industry, I think people are like, oh, we have equity. So they want to be Ben and Jerry's of cannabis. But then we find out that like, well, all of your control is in California or Florida, whoever this person is that I don't even read all of it. I just gotta put them there. But like people can go do that work and be like educate themselves and enlighten themselves before they go purchase. And so they can actually be conscious like consumers. And so when you go on Facebook and you're like, yes, I promote social equity, people will be like, yeah, we know that because you go to Pure Oasis and like we see you at Pure Oasis and Pure, like you promote Pure Oasis. Like we can, like your actions tell you that. And that's what it's like. I'm mentioning Pure Oasis because they're the only one that like not a promoter as a researcher, but just knowing that like, again, you can zoom in and see it's going to be really slow, but like their money, their control and stuff stays in the state. And so it's like, ultimately, I think that's important. I think a lot of just people in Massachusetts pride themselves on being like a masshole.
Well, so to that point, are you able to show us only the licensees where the money stays within the state?
I have not wrote that algorithm, but essentially, because it's a basic control, but I am so I'm teaching myself how to use what's Shiny app, to be able to disaggregate it more like that. So right now it's just by a business. You'd have to know what business you wanted, and even then, I don't even think it's like, because not every business has like every. So this is where it gets hard. Not every application like has this, because only people who have final licenses submit like authority data. And this dashboard is only like the first one. The next one gets into the races and ethnicities of the people in like who work there, but also the race and ethnicity of the people who have authority or control. And so again, I can only make one dashboard at a time, but visually, I think it would be really important for people to see that, like, when you see non-DBE, which means non-disadvantaged business enterprise, it basically means white man.
Right.
And I don't mean that to like trivialize or like, throw anything. I mean that just to say that, like, well, equity is important. And if you don't know how to read this chart and see that that number means white man, you might not understand what people are saying and why they're so upset. And so it's like, I think this is where ultimately I shouldn't be the one having to do this. I think this is what the Cannabis Control Commission should be doing, in the sense of, well, if you want to, I love that Massachusetts loves to be first. I do. I love it. But sometimes I feel like we pride ourselves on just being first and not actually doing the work required to like be proud of being first. You feel me?
Yeah, well, and so, it sort of raises an interesting point, though, because the Cannabis Control Commission is sort of the intersect of, it's really the intersect of business and, the cannabis business industry and government, right? And it's just that we, the people, had demanded that that sort of take place with a moral compass in mind. And so it's an interesting concept, because I don't know, it's not even concept, but it's just sort of an interesting thought, because I can understand that the Cannabis Control Commission has a sort of a conflict there, between.
Wait, where would there be a conflict?
I think that they might say that they're there to sort of oversee and implement like all business activity within cannabis within the state of Massachusetts. And what we're saying is like, hey, this whole thing was built off of the backs of the people who were affected by the war on drugs, which kind of started a lot of police brutality and regular murdering of black people, right? And that this cannabis industry is supposed to
people of color, because they don't want. So one issue, words matter. I didn't mean to cut you off, but words matter in the sense of, well, you said black people. I'm like, yeah, say black people. Black people were arrested at disproportional rates, because when you break it down by race, it doesn't say people of color break down by race, and that's where you can say black and brown, but it matters. People want to be heard when we talk about who is being represented, because people of color allow people to feel good that there are Middle Eastern people in the cannabis industry, which I think is great. I love that Middle Eastern is a race on the cannabis, like one of the options. I was like, whoa, I don't see that very often. They even have Native Americans. Now it's like 1 or 0%. But I think inclusive action is important. That if you look at the disadvantaged business enterprises, you can break it down by LGBTQI, veteran status, but then it has intersectionality, so people can pick more than one. I'm like, yo, that's dope. Like, I've never seen that. I attribute a lot to that to like people like Shailene Title, who I'm like, well, I don't even know if that was exactly her, but I bet her presence and her concept of representation, like, and the importance of it like is the reason why that's there. So when I made it, I purposely made sure that there were icons that reflected the disability community, veterans, the LGBTQI community, so people can see themselves in this. Because if you're like, yo, I just want to see who is the black woman who applied, you can like filter out all of that, filter it out. And like when we talk about going back to like just the sales, so you can filter the background by like areas who had like higher arrest rates. So there, I put the link in the intro, but you can read the study about the ranking and how they did it and all the math. But ultimately, somebody calculated who had the most, like the worst arrests. So if you go, you'll see Boston had the most. Like it's the chart, Boston, because it's a larger city, had like 1,200 for the thing. So then again, you're like, let's put up the licenses. Well, we'll see if it loads. Hey, there we go. That like again, well, I can now see these areas of disproportionate. I can see the areas that had the highest arrest rates. I shouldn't be able to see them because like the dot should be covering those areas because that's where people got arrested the most. That's where we said that we want equity. I don't see it. Now, there are some places where I'm like, oh, let me go over here because I've never been to Great Barrington. I don't know anything about it. But I think it's pretty cool that there's a shop here because I know that a lot of people got arrested for marijuana sales and there's a retail there. Now, this is not a DVE, so now I'm like, oh, I ain't gonna shop there because it's not somebody who identifies as like, so it's, but maybe I want to shop there. And so it's like, you can filter it out and, oh, let's hope this filter works. It's been struggling. And that's why I'm like, they put minority, they didn't put black. That's also why I was mad because I was like, well, dang, I can't even find the black ones. Like, so you can see the minority businesses that have licenses that qualify for all the filters that we have. And so you can click there. There's a minority business over in Springfield, but it's not in the area of disproportionate. It's not like Holyoke. But that's the whole point is just taking all of that data that they have on the open data portal and pushing what the expectation of public policy is. And that's what it's like. I think I've been failing to communicate that I'm just really disappointed that we're first, but like we're waiting for Chicago or other areas to figure out banking or to figure out something else because we don't have the political wherewithal or gusto to actually do equity right the first time. And that's why I'm like, oh, then stop saying we're first. Like, stop promoting it. Stop being proud. Stop wearing that badge of honor if you're not going to like be innovative and create like interactive data dashboards so people have access. Because I don't care from a business standpoint. Well, that was my competitive advantage. Jordan shouldn't be giving people data for free. And I'm just like, you hear yourself. The government, that's what equity is. The government should be giving people data because they need this. They don't know if their business is 500 feet or whatever the rule is away from the next business. You can measure it. You can literally use this tool right here and you can measure a distance between 2 points and it will tell you how far away it is. So I don't need to pay somebody $2,000 to do something that is very simple because they know how to do it. Sorry, I'm not sorry. It's more of because I'm tired of people trying to tell me what equity is. Like, that's not what business, that's not. And I'm like, then you're not representing the spirit of the law, which is to be equitable. So equity first, then capitalism. So it might sound like socialism or whatever,
And Jordan, I know earlier when I was saying that you should charge for access to the data, I was sort of speaking in a superlative. Like,
no, I took it as a compliment.
No, it makes sense to me that EE and SE applicants who don't have, like, look, you have to think about, like, in society all the time we charge things based on, like, not just the need or want of it, but also, like, the capability for people to pay for it, right? And I am eyes wide open that the reason why we have so few real EE, businesses going on in Massachusetts right now is from an economic standpoint. And so, but what I would say is that, if 90% of the cannabis industry right now is white, male, rich folk, like, they do have money. And so if everyone needs, I guess there's a way to still help people, but also make sure that, like, you're getting taken care of when and where it makes sense. And a good piece of advice that somebody gave me a long time ago was like, if you're really good at something and you're truly passionate about it and it's your thing and you're one of the best people at doing it, you shouldn't value yourself by the paycheck that you bring home every week or every 2 weeks or whatever. because somebody somewhere will pay you more money than you ever thought imaginable, because to them you're that valuable, right? And what I would say is that it's not a bad thing to take money when you can take it, because then you're in control of that money and you can decide what you want to do with it. And if that means to do good in different ways with it, then you're able to do that. Like I think it, money doesn't make happiness, but it's definitely empowering, and when the right people have the money in their hands, like that's when it can do the most good, right?
And that's where I hear that, and I struggle, because when you were speaking, I was thinking about, like, again, as a teacher, but also just as a student, like when we had field trips, and like I love field trips, like opportunity to get out of class, like, and go learn something and like be like experiential. But people fail to realize that early on, like, kids don't want to participate because they're afraid of the $4 or the $2 or the, let me not even $1 that it will cost. Sometimes teachers just symbolically wanted people to invest, so there'd be like $1, but then they don't think about the kids who can't afford $1 or don't know how to go about getting $1, depending on like what age they are, and what it does to a kid when they know they can't ask their parent for money, or they don't feel like they can, because like it hurts sometimes when a parent can't say, I don't have $1. Right. And so it's like, if we as people in positions of authority don't create this space for people to be vulnerable and say, look, I can't get to this class. I almost didn't finish the social equity program. And that's what's like, well, because I consider myself among the privileged poor. I go to Northeastern, I'm on a fellowship. I'm working through some issues at Northeastern in terms of being heard and getting access to those funds and things. But ultimately, I feel like I'm going to be fine. But there are people who don't have access to like resources that Northeastern have, who are just as capable, if not more, to doing this, but they just don't have the like access. And so it's like, sorry, Alexa's reminded me.
Have you taken a look at what Harvard offers for free online too?
Online learning, and that's where I'm like, but what are the outcomes of that? We're in this information age where, like, yeah, you can get access, like, you can teach yourself anything on YouTube, but it's fucking hard. That's why people are upset about all going back to online classes. Well, I'm not going to take class. I'm not going to pay for classes if I'm not going back in the fall, because I know that there's a difference in my learning experience. But people don't have, again, that's a privilege. But if you just only have access to YouTube, then like you only get what YouTube offers. And you don't get to ask for help, or if you ask for help, you hope that they give you good advice. But if you're not a coder, if you are, like, go to Stack Overflow, that thing is traumatizing. Like, I value words, and people are really rude. Rude in the sense of giving feedback. They're all a bunch of technical people who probably, I can imagine, their skills allowed people to, like, you know what? He's the one who's going to make the pretty charts and graphs. Let me just talk to him however he wants. I'm going to be quiet. But it's a failed opportunity to give him the social soft skills. Because, like, well, I have emotional intelligence and I can code. So why do I need you? If you're going to talk to me this way, why do I need to pay you to? No. And that's what it's like. I can teach you how to do this. It's not hard. Most of it's a template. You just learn a few things. And that's what it's like. That would be my business. And I would want the government to pay me to be like, yeah, our social equity program is dope because Jordan motherfucking Clark is a data scientist who is empowering people to make their own data dashboards, so that we don't have to, like, that's how you eliminate barriers to access. Well, I can't afford to pay someone to make a dashboard for me to present to you to show you that I know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I tend to I like the direction that you're heading. I almost wonder if it's more that you need to be a nonprofit than a government-funded
That's
guy.
what's like. I'm an ancillary certificate holder. I think I just need to have, like, I'm getting an LLC something or another, so that way I can qualify for the responsible vendors program, and then provide data science as a service, and then say I will come teach. But I struggle with, to be fair, fully transparent, with the Cannabis Control Commission.
So,
I don't know if I want to work with you.
Well, the other thing too is, and I don't know this for sure, but I suspect that all of those other businesses that are responsible, approved, CCC, blah, 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 and got some money, that they're not getting enough money to actually be sustainable because they're all charging, what I can tell, large sums of money for EE and SE folks to be able to access the programs and the education.
And that's where it's just like, Boston, Massachusetts, we pride ourselves on being so intelligent, but this is this bias that I'm trying to root out at Northeastern, where it's that like liberal mindset of like, well, did you not read it? It says equity. And I'm just like, I'm insulted, microaggression. How dare you think I didn't fucking read the shit before I challenged you? And that's where like people just don't understand fundamentally that like we're arguing, we're on two different frequencies in what we're talking about, which is that you said equity. Equity means you are right, like that. We have those pretty graphs, I think, of the bicycles, and they're like, oh, creating a bicycle. It's on the cannabis control site, right? So you put that chart up there, communicating to me that you know what equity is. But when I show up to your meeting and I ask you, well, what are your diversity, like your race suitability clauses? You look at me like I'm stupid. And I mean that, and well, that happened to me. I went to the police station in Randolph because that's what the address was for the first social equity program. And that's where I'm like, oh, I already feel bad. I feel like I'm going there emotionally. I'm dragging people. But I'm speaking about my experience.
Hey Jordan, do me a favor and put yourself back, get out of presentation mode, because people want to see your face as you're talking.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. And now I got to fix it because now I'm on there twice. But no, it's well. So go on, please.
Well, so it's just that I went there and I have PTSD. I had police put me in an interrogation room because a white woman felt threatened by that all happened in like a year. So when you sent the wrong address, I have flashbacks. Like I was about to be put in an interrogation room because I wanted to go learn about like how to be in the cannabis industry. That's traumatizing. And thankfully they acknowledged the trauma. They went on Twitter and I was like, cool, I feel good. I can sit in this room now without staring at you like I'm ready to like do something because I can't control that. I'm that student. And if you say you want equity and you believe in disability and ADA, well, I got accommodations. But people oftentimes, they don't have the privilege to even get the paperwork to tell you, or even, and when I say this, I mean it humbly, the privilege to know that they have a disability or that they have the ability to get access to services because of trauma. If you grew up poor, you have PTSD. Poverty is a traumatizing experience. If you grew up around poor people, you might have PTSD. There's levels to it. But I promise you, the way I think, the reason why I'm able to like do things like this is because I grew up poor. And I had to overcome because what happens at home stays at home. So I don't want people to know I'm poor. So like I got a job at 13 so I could buy Abercrombie and Fitch. And it's like, that's why I get when my students are like spending all this money on sneakers and they're trading them and they're doing all sorts of shit that I would never do. But it's like, oh, when you poor and you just got what you got, like that says something, right? Like it's a pride thing.
Well, so what I would say is that I think that the way that your brain functions and your ability to look at data has something more to do with just being poor. But I completely believe that how you use that power and that ability to look at data and what you're doing with it is completely driven by that you grew up in poverty and your life experientions. But what I will say is that you have a very special gift.
Everyone.
You have a very special gift.
Thank you. But everybody has special, and I don't mean that to I mean that in the sense of people aren't given the opportunity to actualize their gift because, and this is what I'm like, people are afraid. I get when I walk in a room, people are like, oh shit, Jordan, what is he going to tweet about? And I'm like, well, what are you going to say that has you worried that I'm going to have to tweet something? Because it's work. That is emotional labor. Twitter is how I emotionally regulate, but it's also because, and that's where people are like, oh, why would you? I'm like, well, I'm also telling a story and I'm downloading it and I'm doing some data science stuff to communicate and show you visually that like, well, if I could tweet in real time, this would be this. And ultimately it's going to be a predictive model that like, well, if I sit here and listen to, is it Hoffman? It's emotional intelligence. He gives me negative energy. He doesn't like my questions. It is very dismissive. I don't that's what's like, but that's not my job to like figure out how to tell you like what I need. I raised my hand. I asked a question. You didn't answer it. I'm still waiting for those answers. And that's where it's like, so why do I keep coming back to these meetings? Why am I doing this so that I can help you out, Mr. Chairman Hoffman? Because ultimately it's going to make you look good. Because like ultimately it's for the people. Like that's what's hard being humble. It's hard to work with people who I don't like to be around. And I just mean that in the sense of, well, it causes me like I have a disability, and that's what people don't get. So if you're intimidated by me and you're not able to check your bias, then like I'm reading into you trying to understand whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's like, so if I'm wrong, help me understand where I'm wrong, but I'm not wrong all the time. I try to figure out how to say that.
I know it's rare. It happens, right? It happens.
Right. And that's what it's like. I try to remind people that I'm not unreasonable. And that's what it's like. Ultimately, though, like I've had some very negative experiences with people who are in positions of authority in the Cannabis Control Commission. And I don't like I know they don't understand because I've yet to receive an apology. But like that's kind of the point. There are so many people who want to have access to this industry, who deserve equity, but there aren't people who know how to who have the skill set to like create that environment. And that's why, again, I struggle because I'm like, it's not my job. And this is where I like, because people, they say, you're smart, Jordan, you should do it. And then I'm like, thank you. Like Grant, he said that in the meeting the other day. And I immediately was like, oh, thank you for believing in me. And then I got pissed because I was like, well, I already applied. They didn't even reply to my application. And I'm like, I know, probably because I tweet. I'm like, I get that what happened. I'm fully aware, like, of that being somebody like me who projects like that energy. Well, I have 5 interviews for my job. But you know what? My HR person told me that at the 5th one. But he told me that and we talked about it. And then I like cried because I was like, well, thank you for being the first person to like tell me what I already know.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm that, like, now that I have the technical skill, I'm waiting for people to humble themselves. And look, and this is where I'm like, race definitely comes into it, because I'm like, if I was a white man and I could do this and I told you I would do it to you for free, would you talk to me this way?
They might though, and the problem is that the perception is reality. So when you give away your amazing stuff for free, then people start getting used to it for free. What you ought to do, what I would do,
that's a reflection of who they are. You shouldn't be a public servant if you're gonna treat people. Because I'm a teacher. If you're gonna come volunteer in my classroom, best believe you're gonna thank you note that I'm gonna make sure that you value your time, because I understand. That's what's like. That's a reflection of people. Mark Zuckerberg decision, not, and I know I'm tangent, but it's like, no, that's a white man decision. He's like, oh, well, capitalism, and I don't want to make the hard choice because people. I'm like, no, you need to make the hard choice. Otherwise, at your core value, you're okay with racism.
So where in your where in the programming do you get to account for that people are shitty?
And that's what I'm like, we're all imperfect. That's what I'm like, no one said I was perfect. Like, we all have shitty aspects, but there's levels to it. And I'm sorry that nobody, like, that's what I'm like, I grew up on a farm. I moved to Boston. First people I met from New York, I was like, do you have a gun? They looked at me like I was like crazy, like, how dare you? And I was like, well, I saw New Jack City. And then they were like, started laughing at me because they're like, wait, what? They got it. They thought I thought that New York was like New Jack City because, well, I had this bewilderment that like, wait, it's not like New Jack City? I don't know if you've ever seen New Jack City.
Of course.
Oh, that's my bias. I don't know you like that. You're a white man. I'm gonna assume you have not seen that movie.
That was the sequel to Ferris Bueller's Day Off, right? No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally messing with you. No, I'm totally messing with you.
I was like,
you're like, oh my god, it totally is. Like, I just lost. You're like,
he was ready to log off.
But it ultimately is that's cultural agility though, because that's where it's an opportunity for me to be humble, to be like, my bad, and let me not treat you like every white man, because like, well, statistically, if I say that movie, then people don't get what I'm saying, because well, they don't know that New Jack City is like this drug lord, like all the, and that's where I'm like, oh, well, I was ignorant. A lot of people call me, they said I was white because of like how I viewed the world, but I'm like, oh, well, where I'm from, I was always black. So like, and in Boston, they're like, well, what kind of black are you? And I was like, wait, there's more than one kind. Like, no one told me that. And that's what's like, well, because like I just I didn't grow up with people who were different. That's what's like, if I was white in America, I would be so thankful to have like woke black friends and woke people around me who can model healthy behaviors for my children. Not for me, because I probably have some bias that like is negative. And that's what I'm like that I don't want. I don't want to like people like tweet, oh, what should I do to not be racist? I'm like, yo, one, that's where I'll start charging people. That's where I'm like, yo, I'll be it because the emotional labor of having to like, no, I can't do that. That's not my job. Like, I'll do it online because like I'll download this later and I'm gonna like train a model, like AI model, be like, well, this is what ignorance looks like. So if somebody talks to me, says these words in this way, and I respond this way, because I'm creating a virtual avatar that knows how to communicate like I do. So you can go talk to a virtual me and like you can pay for it, and then I'll get paid for you to like increase your level of cultural agility, and I don't have to experience the trauma of your ignorance. Because that was my family drama this morning, by the way. Like my older brother making a joke about like Black Lives Matter. Because my older brother's phenotypically white. And it's like my little brother, it really hurt him. And I have the privilege to be on the East Coast. I'm not really around my family often. I don't need to go too far into that. That's for therapy. But ultimately, like, I love my little brother. We have that type of relationship where I'm like, I'll humble myself and I'll reach out to my mom and I'll ask her to like talk to him. Because like I can't communicate to my brother. And my little brother's trying. And the fact that he's trying means he cares. And if he cares enough, and then I should care. And that's where it's like, people just stop caring. And it's like, oh, I have all sorts of reasons to not care about my older brother, but I do. And it's like, I'm thankful for being, that's what's like, it's business, like family, whatever we can, everything kind of mixes when it comes down to core values. And like, you know, Ava and like, you know, there are white people in this chat, like who I'm like, yo, like, thank you for being you, because like, I can't do what you do. And I acknowledge that and I value and appreciate it. And that's where it's just like, I don't think we have all of those people in positions of authority in the cannabis industry to uphold the spirit of the law, just in their facial reactions.
Well, totally. And you know, here's what I'll say is that it's not like no amount of protesting or rioting even is going to stop racism. What's going to stop it is when white people decide that racism it's truly not going to be a thing, and they actively work toward that. It's not, black people are not going to be able to force that. It is white people that are going to end racism. And so it's up to us to be in the long run. Like we need, yes.
Well, that's what I'm like, I hear that. I used to say that, but as you're saying, I'm like, well, actually, no, I think it could be, well, just the world's going to evolve out of white, like those white, meaning like, well, we're being more globally mindset and like just like going viral in cancel culture. Like I wouldn't be surprised if more, and I mean this like just scientific, but like more white people like start killing them, like higher suicide rates because they like, you didn't know that you shouldn't bring a Confederate flag to a black person's house when you wanted to like go fix their plumbing pipes, and that you went viral because that like that experience like that happened. And that's why I'm like empathy. I feel bad in the sense of, well, I'm sure that sucks. You probably lost your job and all that, but like you can't have more empathy for your oppressor. Watch Black Mirror, and then maybe you're under. But that's when like maybe you just don't have the cognitive ability. Again, it's just like it's a skill.
Well, and I've noticed over the last few days in having conversations with white people where I can see education happening and I can see enlightenment happening, and it's not always easy. And we actually have to understand that like, people do fucked up things all the time, but there's still room for growth, right? And we still, you know, it's not that we don't acknowledge the fucked up stuff that's happening, but we still need to like, we still need to eventually try to exist in a place where we're encouraging enlightenment and growth and you know, because I think in the long run there's a lot of people that want to be good, but it's to your point, like they didn't know what really good was, right? And they have to be taught that. And it's not that like once we're adults we're no longer able to like learn stuff, right? We're constantly able to learn and evolve, right? And I think evolving is like sort of an important concept here, because you know, like we can evolve and still recognize all of the history of bad stuff and all of the stuff that's wrong and needs to be made better, but that you're still like allowed to change and for things to get better. And it's not like an on-off switch. It's not like suddenly we're all going to be good and don't worry about all that other stuff. It's more like, I mean, it's like the evolution of man, right? Like we went from from primates to like, you know, intelligent being with, you know, creating tools and, you know, language and all of this stuff. And like we can continue to evolve, right? I can't wait for the aliens to come down. To your point, like I think end of 2020, I'm kind of rooting for end of 2020.
They've been here.
End of 2020, that like suddenly the human race is like, holy shit, we all have to band together because there's a common threat here.
Telling you, man.
And I hope the aliens are good. I hope the aliens are good, but on some level, I hope they're kind of bad or we're all freaked out because maybe we can all finally come together and realize that like we're allowed to celebrate our differences. We're allowed to be different. That's amazing that we're different, but that's a good thing. And it doesn't have to be that like difference means fear and hate. You know what I'm saying? Like it's. I don't know.
I agree. I think, but that's where it comes down to is like access. That's what it's like. What I feel very privileged because I'm learning to reframe how I view white people, and I mean that I'm literally rewiring my brain, and not just white people because it's intersection. So it's also like how I view women. I'm like, oh my god, you're right. Like I'm literally rewiring my brain to just like assume a woman's right, and that's where people are like, wait, why would you do that? I'm like, well, women have been like generationally oppressed longer than men. So just like on oppression levels, like I'm assuming she's right just to make her feel good. And I don't mean that to be minimizing, but like, then maybe we can talk about it. And like, as a man, I know that I need to put in that work so that I don't deny energy.
Because you're low key doing what is necessary, which is that feminism wouldn't exist if men acted the way that they're supposed to act. So simply by you existing the way that you should when it comes to women, you're not only like helping women out, but you're setting an example for all the men around you,
that
right?
Women can't do.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying is like even when we're talking about like ending racism, like
or homophobia, where I'm like, yo, heteronormative black men who aren't afraid of me, I'm like, thank you. Oh my god, when I get in a room around like, cause I mentor, I'm used to it. I'm like, yep, oh I get it. He thinks I'm checking him out or some like just. It's insecurity, and it's the male. We talk about white fragility, male fragility, but then heteronormative male fragility, just around like what it feels like to be objectified. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I have so many speeches, lectures, whatever, around just like how to help men increase their capacity for empathy in the sense of, well, I see a VR experience designed by women because I don't want to be the one to make this, but where men get catcalled. Well, they look in a mirror, they're a woman. So then prospectively, they're like, wait, I'm a woman. Okay. And then you have to make decisions. Do you go right or left? Do you text somebody? And they're like, why would I even text somebody? This or that. And then all of a sudden, like somebody starts following you. And the back of their mind is like, you're a woman. It's a game. Like something's gonna like, meaning like how we as men would know that like that should be dangerous if I was a woman, but I'm a man. And so it's just like that like will help people understand, and that's what like that's the end goal, but I don't have the access, like I don't have the tools
well and maybe not even so much the catcalling, but then the subsequent like harassment, the anger from rejection, all of that stuff, right? Which is really the scary part. Like I get it, like as a man, especially because no one ever catcalls me, like if somebody's like, hey, you're looking good today, like that might feel okay, but if I reject that, and then they're like, you fucking prick.
Can we not even do a hypothetical that is okay? We're like, I don't feel comfortable hearing like another man tell me it's okay to think of a scenario where like a woman would be okay with a man catcalling. Nope. No, she's not okay with it. We want to assume that she is not okay with this man. So let's just reframe it. And then we can still have the same conversation. And this is where I'm dramatic, but I taught fourth grade. I'm like, I don't encourage rape male culture. That's what I told the parents who were like, well, just let the boys be boys. Oh, no. Aiden should not have put his hands on her. She said no, like, period. There's no, like, and this is from talking to moms. And I'm like, I'm 24 years old. I don't have kids, but that's where I'm like, but I have a position of authority. And that's where I'm like, I learned to say that, like, well, ultimately you're going to thank me because your son's not going to be like Eric Brock or that white boy from Stanford who like raped somebody. And that's what it's like. Yo, that's a poor reflection. That starts here in fourth grade. I know you don't want to hear that, but that starts when Aiden is allowed to poke a little girl, and you were like, "Oh, whatever, he's just flirting." No, he's a rapist. No, he's not. Like I love, like, these are made up dates, sorry, but like ultimately he's not. I'm scaring the parent because I care about them. I love this little boy. I don't want him to grow up and do that, but I know it happens to little boys who are allowed to be encouraged. And that's where honestly, it was my fault because I let Aiden get away with it. And then I had a group of 4 girls come and correct me. But I also pride myself on creating an environment where 4 little girls felt comfortable because I took points away from them because they were talking because Jessica was good. Dudes were crying. And I was just like, why are you crying? Like, no, points. But then they came and we had restorative justice and they felt heard. Everybody learned a lesson. I gave them my points and I apologized publicly because like I don't want to traumatize little girls to think that like they shouldn't ask for help or like speak up. And that's what's like, I might be over dramatic, but at the same time, I don't know, when I tell people that story, people feel good. And it's like more, and there are a lot of teachers out there who do that. They just might not be aware that's what they're doing. And if they're not aware, then like we should have resources to help them figure it out.
Jordan, where do you live? Don't tell us exactly where, but you're in Massachusetts, right?
Yeah, Dorchester, Mattapan, like right by Harambe Park.
Cool. We should totally hang out.
Yeah, I mean, I'm here. Like, well, it's like quarantine. I mean, that's what's like. I don't want to talk about it because like we protest. So if like we go to a protest, then yeah. But I'm also still trying to be like respectful of like the other pandemic that's happening.
Yeah, well, but there's the quarantine, right? First of all, there's the concept of quarantine, but second of all, we can still be like socially.
That's what I'm like. Oh yeah, some people, because again, we're modeling healthy behavior. We're online. We got people watching, and it's just like that's where again, like that doesn't turn off in my brain though, in terms of like words. And I'm a very literal person, so that's what it's like. I was like, oh, am I gonna be able to like joke around and. Because like I know my face like communicates a lot because it's emotional intelligence, but like that, but I can tell you where it comes from. Like being a little black boy, a 4th grader, and I'm gonna say her name, having Mrs. Baker as your teacher, in the sense of well, she always found ways to like I was always right. Like I learned my multiplication tables like really quickly because she had to go buy ice cream for the person who knew that, and like that's why I learned my multiplication table. So she had to humble herself and go get me ice cream. Otherwise, that trick ain't gonna work for everybody because if she doesn't do it for me, then everybody's gonna be afraid that she won't do it for them. Like that's the kind of mental game I was playing because she was a white woman. I grew up with white women, and she would find ways to send me to a corner or whatever. And so it's like, oh, I see that in kids. They're brilliant. I love the way those minds think. But it's ultimately, it's no different than adults. I feel like a kid, and the Cannabis Control Commission is the teacher. They're the ones who get to define the rules. And I'm just disappointed that as the person in position of authority who used the word equity and uses it so proudly, where's the humility, Hoffman? That like, look at the summaries. You the chairman. Can you stop insulting me by thinking I don't know what you're doing, which is trying to control the narrative, which is the problem of just the history of whiteness. Christopher Columbus Day, like, you know, things like that where it's like, well, we're literally erasing people's history. James Baldwin, white people are trapped in history they don't understand. I love James Baldwin because people know enough about him to respect him and view him as an intellectual, but also you can insult them. Well, I mean, if you get a meme that says white people are trapped in history they don't understand, and then James Baldwin and have a picture of it, and then you can literally put that on like the most conservative people's pages, and they won't say shit. They might even like it or heart it. And I'm like, I feel good. I just told this white person he's trapped in history he doesn't understand. And he liked it. Now, they might not be liking it, like thinking about on the level that I'm thinking about it, which is kind of the point. They're like, oh, okay, James Baldwin, probably shouldn't insult him. Now, there are some who want to go for it. Like, let's go. But like Baldwin versus Buckley, like that's my favorite like debate. Buckley's the white man. He literally had to say that he can't even debate Baldwin as a black person because he'll lose. It's about empathy. Oh. And ultimately, he wanted to define the rules. And so some people, it's a debate, like Baldwin got the most votes, but at the time, he felt like he lost. Like you can tell that the energy was there. And so it's like, but in the history of the world, like Buckley lost. That white man who's out there arguing that he lost. That's what I'm like, yo, white people, wake up. You ain't gonna control the narrative forever. So Hoffman, as a white man, and I'm going to keep saying it, as a white man in a position of authority, I would be hoping that you want your legacy, because you can control that. You can control if this industry is actually equitable. You can answer my question about race suitability clauses, because like, if you don't have one, I have some ideas. But if you're not willing to hear them, then what kind of white man are you? And I say that because I'm like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to write you down in the history books. And I know people don't want to generalize or be stereotyped. I certainly don't. But like, I can only tell you what I see. Hey, you ignored me. And that's valid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just lots of people who don't have the opportunity to write a bunch of emojis, put them on Facebook, figure out how many people respond to them, download the social interactions, quantify the like. Who has time? Well, I mean, I do, but like, who else does? And that's what the point is. Again, I want this algorithm to be well. You can download your Facebook data. I saw a few of it where people like, "Ooh, here's your people to unfollow." People who liked Trump, and it's like, "Oh, well, that's a basic algorithm." I clicked on it, and then it's like, "Oh, but those people like Trump, so they know what he's saying, so they can make fun of him." So like, why would I unfriend them? Exactly. Well, improve your algorithm. Whoever did this is basic, is what I would say. And then I'm like, Stack Overflow, ego. Like, try not to insult people, but you're like, that goes back to the municipality zone tracker. It communicates like, oh yeah, we have a tracker. That's what they'll say to people in social equity. All right, if they haven't already, I already see it. But it's the energy, right? Like, go online, and it's a white woman face. And that's why I'm like, I'll break it down to you. I could tell you, but it's like, go online, go to the track, and it's as if I didn't go to the tracker and see that it was an Excel document. It was 3 columns with the names of the towns, yes or no, for the answer. So I had to go find, well, what if I want to look at more than one town? Did you think of that? And then I was like, okay, who has social consumption? Because that's the license coming up. Well, go check the tracker. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me that. I can't wait. It's a setup. Well, because the answer is none of them. So why would you go tell me to look it up and go look up 351 columns looking for a yes? Oh yeah, I practiced. I counted all of them. Well, I just know it. But it's like, oh, I'm ready. I am ready to respond to you for having the audacity to tell me because it's the energy, as if it's easy. And you know full well that the answer is no. You could have just said none of them. But that doesn't sound good.
Mm-hmm.
And then that's what like, oh, that's not what I mean. I'm like, okay, well then you need to think differently because that's what I'm interpreting. And I can't help how I feel. That's science.
Well, and I think, I don't know, I think emotional EQ is not something that people are taught, and it's not something that people are exposed
to. It. They're not aware. Like, they don't, like, that's what I'm like, oh, my students are some of the most emotionally intelligent, like, beings. They grew up in some resiliency. So that's what it's like, oh, they have it. Just no one, to your degree, no one told them. No one said, this thing you're doing, your brain, the way it's thinking right now, that is design thinking. That is quantitative reasoning. No one's explaining to people that they're doing it, but they are doing it. They have the skills, and they have it on levels. But,
well, and I think the people that have been the most hurt and the most damaged have the most capacity for empathy. But often they're not given the safe space to be able to operate in that manner because they know that they get abused when they are nice and when they're kind and everything else. And so, you know, there's a lot of folks that end up putting up walls and barriers around that. And it isn't until you're suddenly finding yourself, you know, almost unbeknownst to you that you're surrounded by like people where it's okay for you to be nice and to be good. Without getting taken advantage of, abused, or belittled for acting like that, because we literally live in a society today where we're told that you know winning is what matters, and it doesn't matter who you stomp on and who you. I mean, we're literally shown every day that sociopathy is the key to success, and it's applauded and lauded, right? And so. What we do need is more people to not just, you know, we need people to sort of call that out, and we need people to, and at the same time to also celebrate the people who are like the good people doing good things, right? And there's, and it's just really interesting because we blame media. We're all ready to demonize media for this, but what we don't realize is that media is a reflection to exactly what it is that we want to consume. Media only gives us what ratings bring in, and
I won't say only. I'm with you.
Successful media that stays solvent is the one that is generally pandering to us to give us exactly what it is that we want, no matter which segment we're in.
But that's where I'm like, sometimes though you don't like. I feel bad for people who watch Fox News, meaning, well, they don't know what they don't know, so it's not their fault in a sense. Like, why would I blame the victim? And I'm not trying to say like, oh, like they're absolved of it, but I'm like, yo, black people, if you learn to view white people this way, it's kind of fun. Well, I mean, in my head, where I'm like, well, oh, I feel bad. Like, and that's what it's like your energy. And I don't, hear me out.
Yeah.
I don't mean it in the sense of you shouldn't project, because this is where it comes, you decide what kind of person you are. But it's like a reflection, right? Because this is where I'm used to people assuming that I'm stupid or I'm ignorant or I'm that, right? So now when I'm like, oh, I know I have the cognitive ability to do the same. I know that I can be like, oh, I feel so bad for this person who's on Fox News and does not know no better. And that's why I'm like, the energy, let me clarify, that's the energy's for black people. Because I'm like, yo, it is fun. I'm sure white people walk around and doing it in their head. They might not even know they're doing it. And that's why I'm like, yeah, the awareness part. But then when it comes, like, well, if you go read the post with me and my brother, like, I'm pretty proud of my reflection because I purposely did not do that. And it is really hard to humble yourself to be like, yo, white person, I know that I can make you feel inferior because, like, you don't know better. Just even saying that, like, is a defensive thing, you know, especially to an adult. But what I'm trying to get, that's what it's like as a teacher. If I care about my student, if I care, we have that mutual interest, I'm going to humble myself because I also know that I have the capacity to do that. Well, and that I'm a good person who is going to, at my core values, reflect to the student what a teacher should do.
Which is to create a safe space for your kids to like learn and get educated, but also do it in a like a morally aligned manner, right? Where people are like good to each other, where we're following the tenets of basic human decency with each other.
Hear me out. It's a lot of work. Like I had systems, people had jobs, people got points. There's like class dojo. Like that's why I'm like my brain. That's why I love teaching. It was the environment that I couldn't do my job. Again, I speak white woman. I know what these colleagues are saying about me when I walk into the like room to heat up my hot pocket that I'm gonna have because I'm going to recess for lunch. They're probably gonna gossip about that because they think I'm trying to. No, I just don't want to be around y'all, and I'd much rather hang out with fourth graders. And I mean that though in the sense of well, I can have a more positive impact because they're like, yo, you're the teacher who's gonna come play with us. Like it's just an opportunity to see with different elements. And like that's where I'm like, oh, I get that. Like that's what's like they don't know they're helping me out by like I don't know occupying my time, help like. But at the same time, I like that's what's like. There are people who are doing that, but you don't get paid for that. That's also that's what's like. It's also unhealthy. So you got to balance it. But ultimately, like I wish like that's why I'm like I want to teach people this. Like but ultimately it's I want people like I want my fourth graders to be able to go to Northeastern because I'm tying this into Northeastern as well because there are people who like. Northeastern's positioning itself to say they're like the Cannabis Control Commission. They're doing a lot for the community, this and that. But it's like I have been fighting tooth and nail to get access and resources that I promise you in a few years some white person is going to do. And I mean that in the sense of, well, I'm not gonna just like give you my idea if like I don't trust you. And I literally applied to a fellowship. They were so excited, and then they met me. Yeah, and then I went to the interviews, but ultimately they said they didn't want to hire anybody. Their urgency went away really quickly, and I was like, oh, they probably saw my Twitter. But I kept at it. Well, can I volunteer? I said all the right things. They're like, nope, we're just gonna wait till the spring. Why I go in November to the meeting and they picked the white guy, and he cornered me and assaulted me verbally. But he assaulted me. He was shocked that I was there. He didn't think I was gonna show up when I asked to volunteer for the event that he acted like didn't exist. That's why I'm like, oh, people think I'm stupid. And so it's like, oh, I went there. I made him real uncomfortable the whole entire time because he had to figure out what to say to me to be like, well, we didn't know like this and that. Well, he asked me, he said, well, why don't you we're worried about if you can work in an unstructured environment. And basically he wanted me to detail out my plan that I was talking to him about that I would get paid to do. Like, he was going to hire me. He wanted me to write it out and send it to him. And get this, my instinct is like, okay. So I was like, I gave him this 10-year plan vision thing. So I was like, okay, I got to write this. So it took me a couple weeks, but I think I got it down to like 3 pages. And I was like, yo, this is really good. But then this happened. And I was like, oh, thank God I did not submit this to him because he duped me. I really thought I was like, yo, there's something wrong with me. Like, no, he wanted my idea. And that's where like people can empathize with that in the cannabis industry. They want you. And if you've experienced trauma, you can tell when somebody wants you, like in the wrong way. It's how they communicate. And if you trust your instinct, well, I don't know, like cannabis control people vetted them. They're a responsible vendor. They said that they're for equity. They have a plan that says that they're gonna do these things. I mean, like, why wouldn't I? Like, why are we expecting people to like know how to read a businessman from New York or all these? Like, I'm from Roxbury. I have opportunity to meet all these rich white people and understand how they talk. And I mean that in the sense of like, well, I'm not from Roxbury, but I can only imagine what it's like to speak to somebody who is not from Roxbury about some business stuff, and you don't know if they're trying to dupe you. And I mean that with all respect of like they're just speaking two different languages. You need somebody there to translate.
And I wouldn't go so far as to name anyone in particular, but there's definitely some people of color in the cannabis community that are completely wary of me, and just as a white person, and I consider myself to, like, I hope that I'm one of the more cool white people, but I get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I totally understand because you get burned so many times. It's like you're living in a world of like constant caution, and and the barriers are put up. Where's the safe place? Where's the safe place to be able to operate where you can just sort of be yourself and be transparent and we're not
your business class, the entrepreneurship thing. There's a lot of vulnerability, and that's where it's like you're taught these skills like that. If you fail, it's a good thing sometimes because you'll learn a lot. Like, I hate when I'm in like rooms and they say that I don't fail. Like, why would I be proud of failing? Like, that's just something like I get it. Like, but why would I fail? Why would I set myself like? And so it's just like a lot of people, because they know they can't. I can't fail. That's not an option. So I get what you're saying. The small failures, little failures. I'm gonna need you to say that I didn't fail, but like, because it's like people don't understand the trigger. Well, why would I go in here? You say, well, if you don't fail, then you aren't learning. What? Like, and that's why it's like people don't understand that concept is a mental like a higher thing. And it's like if you're in survival mode, I don't expect you to be able to reach that as easily. And that's where it's like, because, well, I don't know, money. As soon as I have money, I spend things differently. I operate differently. But as soon as I have usually it's like $10, then I'm like, well, after I go to $10, it goes to a certain mentality. But when I have $0, like I try to be a nice person, not steal or like. So like I won't get on a bus. I won't go to a class because I know I don't have money. And I feel bad sometimes because sometimes the bus driver is having a bad day and I just put this person in a position to tell me no. Well, I mean, they look like a really bad person because I'm poor and I can't afford to get on the bus. But like it's also their job. So how would I look if I like, because I've seen the people who cuss them out. I'm like, damn, they must really need to get on this bus. I wouldn't do that. But a lot of people don't view it that way. They think it's ratchet, ghetto. I'm like, no, that's poverty. And they've clearly never been in a position where it's hard enough to humble yourself to ask a stranger with even the thought of them saying no. That's why kids don't go to school. I worked in DC. Attendance rates are horrible. Well, yeah, when you live in Northeast, I have mentees live in Northeast DC. Well, it's a survival zone out there. So like, one, you got to incentivize kids who want to come to school. I get why we say, congratulations on making it to school today. Well, there's 3 gang war zones. And I'm like, well, I'm done. I'm changing all my energy, right? Because like you mentioned gangs and I'm oblivious to gangs. I be walking in neighborhoods in blue pants and homeboy was like, yo, don't ever do that shit again. You lucky I was walking with you. And I was like, oh, thanks. Like, I'm just here to find students.
Right.
And but I also am racially ambiguous. I'm a man. Like there's a lot of factors that go into play that allow me to operate in spaces authentically where like I don't come off as a threat because oftentimes people don't know what I am. So they assume that I belong there unless it's the suburbs.
Jordan, we definitely want to have you back on. We kind of have gone a little bit later than what we normally go, but it was awesome because I really enjoyed the conversation, and I wasn't bullshitting when I said that we should definitely hang out and stuff. I think it would be a blast.
No, absolutely. I think ultimately, thank you for the opportunity. Like, this is helpful because I'm trying to get Northeastern to see what I'm what I'm doing, like what I'm trying to do for them. Because right now I'm the difficult student But I'm like, there's a moment and opportunity for all of us, for Cannabis Control Commission, for Northeastern, for people to really, like, we're entering a fourth industrial revolution. We can do some really dope, innovative shit. But like, if we aren't putting people in spaces where we can actually do that, and that's where it's humble. Like, some people got to rethink their role. You are not every white people. If you want to be white, and I mean this lovely, if you want to be successful, like legacy wise in the cannabis industry, you should be thinking about like, how many people can I empower? And let me just reframe like where I put my energy so that my legacy is, yo, I work with Jordan and we empower like 8 people to like do that. And like now I walk in there and I like you know how much love you'll get? Like that's what it's like. That's how you become a cool white person.
Well, and that's why even like with what he and I do with this show, like we're trying to like empower voices. Like we're not even so worried about like, oh, how are we gonna make money or whatever. We're trying to do this every day, but really because of the opportunity, we're just trying to like let people who need to be heard have the opportunity to be heard, you know?
Thank you. It's true. Like there are people who actively work to silence me, and it's unfortunate. But you know, at the end of the day, I do believe that data doesn't lie; it tells a story, and we can use it for accountability and transparency. So I struggle with communicating. Yeah, I'm happy that thankful that I'm in Massachusetts, that we have an open data portal, that like I'm able to create something that can tell this story. But don't get me wrong, like. I love America more than any other country in this world, which is why I insist on my right to critique it. That's not a James Baldwin quote. But when you care about things and you love them, you want them to be the best that they can. And like, this data shouldn't say minority. It should say Black. And I should be able to know which Black-owned businesses are in zones that were disproportionately affected by that should be easy for me because you all, because that's what you said this is for. Mm-hmm. But when you fail to do that, you might not fail to see that you're subconsciously failing to communicate and like use data as that transparency to be looking at me and be like, yo, every meeting we saw, you know what? We are on stolen land. If you start every meeting like that as a white person, I'm gonna look at you differently. But I mean that you need to do some research because clearly I don't know what land I'm on. But the whole point is like when you acknowledge people and they're not used to being acknowledged, like it has a potential for a profound impact. And all of a sudden, maybe you could be the white person that allows this Black person or person who's experienced negative experience with white people to view white people differently so they are able to network with white people. Like that's a skill. I think you do that well. Like that's what I'm like, yo, you're doing it right now where it's like, oh, I see it. Like I had to delete I took the comments off. But it's like, yeah, like you have access to different circles than I do and Eric does, and that's what's beautiful about it. But at the same time, that's skill. That's an art. Like it speaks to who you are to be able to a connector. Malcolm Gladwell, a connector. And ultimately, like, and I'm gonna wrap up. I know you said it, but and I would love to come back. I feel grateful to have this opportunity because I don't feel heard, and I feel very heard right now. And I'm thankful for opportunity to speak like this and to communicate like this, especially in times like right now, because. Like that's when we need people who are conscious the most.
We appreciate you hanging out with us today. By the way, first of all we need to do the whole like winner of the contest thing. So we don't want you to go anywhere. And also, I don't know that you've ever gotten to see the end of one of our shows. Eric sings at the end of every show, and since you're here, I think we're gonna have to have you help Eric out with the singing end of the show. But before
people don't want to do that.
No, I think it's awesome. Yeah, no, and I think it's awesome.
That's not 4th grade. You learn to have no shame when you're like.
He's a teacher. He's used to Are you kidding? Like that's like the roughest audience ever. Are little kids like they have no shame in telling you exactly what is right and wrong with you.
Mister, you look fat today. Thank you, Jessica. Love you too.
My own kids.
But that's what's like. No, but in her tone, she means like, Mister, you should have thought like they mean it with love. That's where it's confusing because like she really trying to look out for me.
Right.
But it's like a skill you got to teach them to be like, okay, next time I'll see like next time write me a note. And she will write me a note next time. Like, that's what it's like. They just want to be heard. And it's like, I'll give her a point. I'm like, thank you. You're right. Like, and that's why I started writing. Anyways, you don't need to talk about it. But I was saying, because the class DJ was a job, and Shake It Off was like their favorite song. So I learned to love Taylor Swift and walk around for the 5 minutes during the morning when they were like getting their areas together and play Shake It Off and dance to it and play it. So I'm down. Like,
Right.
All right, so what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up the whole like little clock thing that I bring up. Let's see if I can find it here. Where'd it go? Oh, here it is. All right. And then I'm going to hit save on that. I'm going to come back over here. You'd think, it's Jordan, I have this amazing thing right here that I've never talked about on the show. You can see it a little bit better. Yeah, it's like a bunch of push button things for macros and stuff, and I only have like a few buttons programmed to do stuff, but you can actually do like endless stuff. You would actually kind of love it. I should talk to you about it at some point. Including like drilling into repetitive stuff within applications that you're using all the time, and you can just like bang, bang, right? It's amazing.
But once you learn it, you're like, oh my God, I can do like anything now.
Well, so what happened though, and this is the balance though with like, so I come from traditional television. I'm not an idiot enough to suggest that this is like traditional television, but my mentality comes from traditional television, and so the thing is you don't like mess around with when you have your equipment that's like doing what it's supposed to do. You don't fuck with it when you're doing live television, because that's when like tomorrow I hit a button and the whole thing goes to shit, and then everyone's like, boy, Mike's a fucking idiot, and I'm like, I am, because like I fucked with stuff that works. But anyway, Johnny Two Socks, welcome, the end of the show. Oh, he has? I didn't even see him. All right, so I'm gonna bring up.
Eric, you're a really good listener. I just want to acknowledge, because I was like, yo, I think that's the first time I heard his voice in a while. Sorry, my bad.
The interesting thing is though is that like,
not to say you're not, sorry, not to take away.
He listens a lot more than what people think, because then all of a sudden he'll jump in.
Why wouldn't people think he listens?
Because I'm quiet.
I would assume you listen more.
Exactly. That's what people don't get.
Why would people assume you don't listen?
Well, because when you don't give your opinion on things, when you don't talk and give your opinion on a lot of things, people just assume you don't know what you're talking about. So then I just let them believe it. It's fine. It doesn't bother me. You could judge me.
That is a skill that I wish I had, because I'd be able to protect your
well, when you listen, when you just be quiet and you just actually listen to people, eventually like it always comes up later, and you can input your and people who listen and don't talk while you're listening, they pick up more stuff and more details than the person that's talking to them and asking them questions back, because now you're hearing both sides instead of the person's thinking of the question to ask you. They're not really listening to everything you're saying because they're thinking about that question they're going to ask you. But if you're just sitting there listening to two people talk, you pick up way more details and you get to hear both sides. So I just like to sit down and be quiet sometimes. It's better to be seen.
When you were in school, did you ever get like praised for being a good listener?
Yeah, I usually try to just disappear when a bunch of people are like talking. I try to like just sit there. And
did the teacher be like, "Thank you for being your like"? Did their teacher act like? Do you remember?
Oh no, I was very outgoing in class. I was a talkative. I was that class clown. I was a class clown.
Well, because I'm always curious.
I didn't become a listener until I got older and I started to get to like real life, things. Like when you're in school and stuff, it's kind of everything is given to you, and then when you get to life, you got to figure everything out. So like when you're in school, I was just kind of like the one that was like real talkative and outgoing and outspoken and always getting in trouble. But then when I got to like real life, I kind of just sat back and like when I got to like learned about taxes and living it, paying for your own apartment, bills, stuff like that. it took me a while to figure that stuff out and like get comfortable with it, like the routine of it, and the routine of your taxes and stuff like that. So once that stuff became things that I had to learn on my own, instead of a teacher, sitting there trying to tell me it, I became more of a listener now, because you learn from other people more when you're in real life than you learn from a teacher when you're in a classroom for 8 hours a day. And I can tell you, I learned a lot more from people outside of school than I learned in school, and that's kind of why I like to listen more than I like to give my opinion on things. Because you can give your opinion in your head. You know what you're gonna say. But if you're listening to everybody else, then you're listening to their opinion. And so now you can come up with, it's like they say, it's 3 sides to every story. It's his, hers, and then the truth. So it's just something that
Can't
I
wait to
picked
code
up.
the AI algorithm to be the truth.
Yeah.
All right, so we definitely want to have you back at some point soon, and we'll figure that out after the show.
Did someone figure out the answer to the question? Did they get it right?
Well, so here's the thing is, the way that the contest works, and we didn't really tell everyone yet this, and for those of you that are just joining at the end, today's contest, every day this show happens, we give away stuff on the show. Today it was Infused Jam, and by the way, for those of you, just in case, you got to be 21 or over, because it's like adult jam. And it can be either keto or regular. You just got to tell, if you win, you're going to contact the jam maker.
April can make that jam with a little bit of tequila in it. I'm just asking. I'm not saying any suggestions. I'm just saying
we're
it
trying
is
to get a
adult
research
jam.
facility,
So
though. We want a research facility to have a social consumption license to be able to study if people would want that or not.
that's what I'm saying.
From a
It's
marketing
an
brand
adult
wise, but
jam
also
as it
from a
is.
physiological effects.
So why not add some different adult things to it? Some
Exactly.
adult mushrooms, some adult.
I have friends at UPenn who are majors in psychedelics. That's why I'm like, oh, I got you with that. People in academia, we can add science to it, and now all of a sudden people are like, okay, it's cool.
Now you having a nice little thing of jam on your toast that got mushrooms in it. Now you
and then imagine if you could get paid for it because you were participating in a research study.
Exactly.
That's what we're trying to do.
Okay. Yeah. Research studies, I see how y'all use them now.
That's what I'm like, but don't have we ain't experiment on people. It's a universal basic income model. We need your data that we can understand how cannabis affects physiology.
Any type of experiments you got that involves that, you can definitely.
Oh, we don't use the word experiment. We study people. I don't experiment on people. That sounds like what white people do.
I was gonna say something. I like.
That's what I try to tell white people is yo, if you come, I see some of the research labs in their advertisement. They're like, oh, we're doing an experiment. Gross. Why would I let you experiment on me? That's in my head. That's what I read.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where people are like, words are important. And that's when people get paid to have somebody like me. And I'm like, oh, I just do it for free.
We're so nobody other than Heather Marie actually knows the correct answer. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna start this clock in just a second. The clock's gonna tick down, but here's the surprise for everyone. It's not just the first correct answer that happened today. We're also gonna do the last correct answer. So it's gonna be, we're gonna start the bloodletting soon, in just a moment. So just because folks out there in the comments, just because you weren't the first person to potentially answer correctly.
Johnny said, I've been researching weed since 1968, still not sure if I like it.
Well, Johnny, you got to try some better weed then.
Johnny, you need to get some of what I got.
Okay, so everyone get ready because the countdown clock is starting right now. You're going to see it. I'll refresh here. You got 2 minutes. So 2 minutes. There's a second jar jam that you can win right now. And Dawn, who knows? Maybe Dawn will win both. Dawn did this the other day. Dawn won both prizes because she picked first and she picked last.
Dawn can't win no more. Dawn is disqualified.
Wait, I thought we talked about this. Trauma, trigger.
Oh, never
No,
mind.
he just jokes. He likes to joke
Never
about that.
mind.
He just likes to mess with people.
No, I
So,
didn't.
so we got a minute 30 left right now.
I heard it in your voice. I know you were joking.
Sharon,
But
the answer hasn't been given, but when this
Great
clock is
speech.
done, Jordan is going to reveal the answer to us. So we're going to know both the. We're going to know. We'll be able to figure out, and I'm sure Heather already knows the first person that won. And just so everyone knows, we're going by what's on the screen. So if your comment has to appear on the screen, remember there's like a delay. So just
Amanda's
start
pissed.
the contest.
They ain't ready for me.
Rebecca, the contest is Jordan's favorite sea animal. Jordan's favorite sea animal.
I thought it was sea creature.
Sea creature. I'm sorry, sea creature.
Oh, yeah, thank you. I was like, whoa, I don't like my answer anymore.
There's a hint. That's a good hint for everyone.
I don't,
Sea creature.
It's a
that
sea
means
creature.
it's
It's
the word
Doesn't
animal.
necessarily mean it's a
the word
sea animal.
When I tell you, you're going to be like, oh.
Uh-huh.
So is it a crustacean? It's probably a crustacean. Huh?
What?
Some type of crustacean, like crab, lobster.
I didn't know what a crustacean was, so you were just like, crustacean? I was like, oh, no. Sorry. I'd never heard crustacean.
Is that not a word?
The crustacean, I think, are things with an
No.
exoskeleton.
I don't
Yeah,
mean
like
you're
things
teaching
that-
right
yeah.
now. I don't know. Like,
I just heard that from SpongeBob because
I believe you. Like, that's what I'm like, I don't know what it is.
So we got 10
I
seconds
promise
left,
you
everyone.
it's
10
not
seconds
that.
left. And if everyone looks, it's what's appearing in these comments when the timer runs out. So 4, 3, 2, 1. Bah, whatever's on the screen right now, the last right answer is also the winner. And so, Jordan, now that the contest for today is over, why don't you tell us what the correct answer was?
So, my first response was Aquaman. And then I was
Aquaman.
like, which
Okay.
creature? And I was like, well, I wanted a mermaid, but then I was like, oh, like, that seems too basic. I want to be more specific. And then I was like, oh, well, I like the movie Aquaman, but I want him to be Black Aquaman, kind of like a Black Green Lantern, because there's two different characters. Thank you. I feel like you get comics and just like, they're just two different characters, so you have to specify because I think they have the same name. Point being, Black Aquaman is the sea creature. That's why I said creature. He's not animal. He's a creature because Black people aren't animals. And yeah,
I
that's
like what
my
you
answer.
did there. Nice. I didn't think it was Aquaman.
I was inspired by SpongeBob, to be fair. Like, I was like, well, honestly, my marine biology and animal life is pretty basic, like, not high. Like, I don't write algorithms for, like, whale sounds or anything, like, exotic. So I would be limited in, like, whale, dolphin, like, shark. And so I wanted to get creative.
They're going to be so happy. Yep, Don knows.
Wait, someone got it right.
Don knows. So Don was the first, and Rhonda was the last. So here's the thing: is I have a feeling they didn't get to the point where they said Black Aquaman. I think they.
So I said that I would accept either. It's kind of like that, like, you didn't phrase it as a question, but I'll give it to you.
It's okay.
But rather than get into that, we know that. We know, yeah, Don, you're getting a heavy mail package now.
Because again, there's Fantastic Four. There's like Johnny Firestorm is his name. There's a black one and a white one, but they have the same name. So it's really hard to talk about, like, I want to be Michael B. Jordan and not whoever the other person was.
Thanks for helping us to figure out. And so, by the way, so Don and Rhonda, Don, you can both of you follow up with me after the show, and I'll let you know how this all works.
Don, it ain't that heavy. I can tell you.
No. Actually, what's great is now that Avril has to mail her jam, I can throw my stuff into that box.
Talking about the tie you gave away?
The tie and the shirt, and the 2 bath truffles. I don't have to mail it anymore. I don't have to mail it anymore. I am so excited.
A whole tie. He gave a whole Versace or Gucci or something expensive tie. But I mean, it was slightly used. But hey, it's still a nice tie. We still.
I got it.
Yo, I have. This isn't one of them. But like, I got nice ties and stuff. Come on
Sometimes
now.
it was just the giving. Like, again, I taught 4th grade. I run out of prizes. I'd be like,
he got a whole.
Like, Mister, I earned my points or something. What do I get? And I'm like, you get to have my pencil. And they're like, oh, yay! And I'm like, oh, thank God that worked. Like,
That's how you know we desperate for prize giveaways. We starting to go to our clothes.
No, it's not
No.
that. No, it's not that at all. Like, we have plenty of stuff that we could give away. It's that people.
How?
What do you mean how?
90% of it is April's jam.
And other people's stuff too sometimes, and other people's stuff too. But they
I feel
wanted
like you need like a chart, a visual,
Yo,
data visual.
April ain't been out the kitchen since we started the show.
she's making jam nonstop these days.
She ain't been out the kitchen since we started the show. He told me we got a lot of prizes. Yeah, April got a lot of prizes.
like
Is she
John
paying
T.
you for this? Because otherwise, this is some great branding and great like, advertisement. That like, honestly, she might,
Jordan didn't get to. Do you
Typical
want?
thing.
You should eat a peanut. You should eat a cup thing.
Oh yeah, they're in the fridge.
Here, I'll get them. I'll get them. Jordan, you got to see these. I don't think you saw these.
April
Yet.
makes these infused peanut butter. They're like Reese's
Yeah,
peanut butter
can we hang
cup,
out
but
today? Can
Huh?
we hang out right now? Like, can we hang out today? Like right now? You wanna hang out?
no, I don't
We
know.
got enough for you, dude.
Hey, you can have his. You ain't getting mine.
We got enough for you. We definitely have enough. We definitely have enough for you.
It.
No, we have they're infused with her jam and peanut butter. So you
Yo,
kind of get.
Ooh,
I don't eat chocolate.
Where are y'all? Where is that water behind you? Like, where are you guys? Like,
Yes, that's and it's kind of hazy out today. That's why you can't really see it too well. But there's a bridge back there too.
Oh, so like Chelsea, like that area?
We try not to tell.
Oh, okay, my bad.
No, we'll tell
like
you.
people
Yeah,
on
we'll tell you.
Instagram
We'll
or
tell
people-
you. We just try not to tell people too much because
When people randomly popping up like, "Yo, just came to kick it." No, you didn't. No, you didn't.
A lot of people think that they're secure. I'm like, yo, if your Instagram has location and you post it at your like location on Instagram, someone can find you.
Exactly, and that's your fault.
from the inside of yours.
Hey, victim mentality. I don't think people know what they're doing necessarily, so otherwise they probably wouldn't do it. Oh, I saw there's a Facebook group I'm in, and that I think one of y'all somebody sent to me, and I saw somebody like promoting that or whatever. And I was like, it looked like Reese's. I was like, yo, Reese's Pieces got jam in it, like. Does it look like the double one or whatever, the white chocolate double? And I was like, yo, that's really well made. Like the packaging.
That's what this is. That's exactly what this is right now. Is that picture?
This is like torture then, because I want one.
Oh, they're so good. Although I gotta say,
that's not how you respond to somebody with torture empathetically. They're so good. Oh, it's amazing.
This one has a piece of fried banana inside of it too, which is my request. Because I'm apparently the only white dude that loves like fried bananas with everything.
Really?
And by the way, I tell them, I'm like, make plantains. I'm like, use plantains. And they're like, no way, plantains. And I'm like, you don't understand. It has to be a plantain. It's too sweet if it's a banana. The plantain makes it like, especially when you get a big, and the white people are like, what do you mean a big pile of fried bananas on your plate? And I'm like, no, it's fried plantains because if a big pile of fried banana, it's too sweet. It's too sweet.
White people.
Yo, I lived in Queens.
No, it's beautiful because it's you're a woke white, like that's what I'm like. They don't even see what you're doing for them. Like,
yo, I lived
like you expand the market though by putting. If you were to put a fried plantain into one of those, yo, I'm an honorary Dominican. If you ask my students, yo, automatically Dominican's gonna go hard for that one thing right there, and that's why I'm like, you get like white people can access that cultural. Like network, it's just how you do it. And it's like, yeah, I would trust you to be somebody to make a Reese's plantain, but like, and fair trade, like you'd be equitable to Dominican culture if it is like a big Dominican thing, and like you would, that's what I'm like, it's about trusting how people will invest the idea, because it's like you aren't benefiting, like you didn't invent plantains and how they affect like certain Caribbean. Let me not limit to Dominicans, because really Caribbeans and West Africans, that's what I'm like, that is a huge market that white people just literally by lack of access don't know to like market to. But if you do it, you could be that's what I'm from AI perspective, I want to like do like food vision, computer vision. You could track food using cameras, and right now it's all like a lot very Western in terms of like I made jollof rice the other day and I took a picture of it and it just said like white rice, Mexican rice, Spanish rice, and I was like, fuck this shit, I'm not even like African. But I'm like, yo, I'm not reflected in this. Like, why would I use this app? But so it's like, that business now is an opportunity to like, that's why I'm like universal basic income. Let's pay people to cook food and take pictures of it, and they're really labeling. That's what they're doing. They're labeling it. We value you labeling your food, and I'm going down tangent.
Jordan, I lived in Queens for 2 years.
Oh, that explains.
I lived a half a block from Linden Boulevard, and the thing that people didn't understand is most people I would be like, yeah, I live in Queens, and they're like, oh, that's cool, and I'd be like, I live a half a block from Linden Boulevard, and they're like, I don't know what that, and I'm like, okay, like
someone gets stabbed in Queens.
Yo, you don't understand, like
people, I don't want to like disrespect, like I'm not from Queens, so let me project that, but I mean, and I hear you.
Everyone in Queens, God bless them, thought I was a cop because I was coming home from Showtime every day with a tie on, coming home, and they thought I was a cop living in their neighborhood, and so they were all like real respectful and very nice and like, oh, you know. And by the way, I would get reverse racially profiled in Queens driving around. Cops would pull me over and they'd be like, yeah, and what I would always do back then is I would leave my work badge hanging from my mirror, which I knew cops at first would be like, you're not supposed to have anything on your mirror, but it would force them to look. And I was using my privilege to get out of cop interactions all the time, because then they would say, oh, you work for HBO, or oh, you work for Showtime, and suddenly the conversation would take a different turn, right? So I get pulled over in Queens, and of course, within a moment, they don't even run my license. They notice my work badge, and they're like, oh, you work for Showtime. Oh, that's great. That's amazing, right? And then I said, so by the way, I'm, just, and they're like, okay, well, that's it. And I'm like, no, well, hold on. So why did you pull me over? And they were like, because you're a white guy driving around alone in Queens, and that seems really fucking shady to us, so we pulled you over to see what the hell was going on, because that, And I was like, wow, okay. And I was like, oh, no, actually, I live 3 blocks down. I just haven't changed my plates and my license.
Curious. How did that make you feel?
It made me feel like I understood, like, my privilege. Like, I don't know, like, it didn't make me feel, I wasn't angry at that. I was like, yeah, I'm a white dude where I get it. Like, I'm not normally here. There's not normally white people here. So I'm understanding right now that, like, I seem really odd and strange. And it made me also understand how, like, probably every fucking black person, except that I didn't feel in danger. But at least from the standpoint of, like, sort of unnecessarily getting pulled over, I understood the annoyance around that, right?
Don't negate. That's why I'm like, oh, please don't negate yourself of that. We need to hear a white man say he was annoyed being racially profiled. First, I'm like, were you racially profiled? And now I'm like, oh yeah, you definitely were racially profiled. So but it didn't bother you. Wow, that's a privilege I don't have. If someone look at me wrong, we beefing. And that's why I'm like, some people. That's why I'm like, but I hear you where it's like if you're not used to something like that, it kind of can be fun sometimes to be included. And you're like, oh, you racially profiled me? It's like when someone gets sexually assaulted in the sense of, oh, that's trauma. Like, so I'm a little concerned when I'm like, oh, you were traumatized and you were okay with it.
Yeah, like.
And that's just like helping white people to understand though, that like, no, anybody being racially profiled is wrong. So like, I feel uncomfortable. I'm going to let you with your white privilege say that it didn't bother you in the sense, well, not saying those are your words, but the sentiment.
Well,
just like,
And it's also it's like tough for me to get like totally angry at this Asian and black cop who pulls me over when at the end of it they're like, yes, sir, we're sorry to inconvenience you. And by the way, literally they went back, they took my license, they did run my license, right? They literally just pulled up next to me and handed me the license through the window. They were like, peace out.
I would still feel demeaned because I'm like, you suspect. That's what it's like. You thought of me something. Then that's why I'm just like, I'm exploring it because ultimately it's okay. That's why I'm like, oh, you don't have to be mad at the Asian person or the black cop. Be mad at the system that allowed somebody to do that. And that's what's like, again, helping people see that you can be justified in being wrong.
And by the way, there was a part of me also, and I'll leave it. We'll leave it at this. Is that there was a part of me that also enjoyed trying to normalize people in Queens with a white guy who wasn't a dickhead. Like there was a part of me that enjoyed going around Queens. Like I Do you understand the pleasure that I took in going and finding all of the best oxtail places in Queens so that I could walk, and because I loved it anyway, but so that I could walk in, order oxtails, make sure I had, no matter what I was ordering, I want plantains on my plate because, like, I'm just me personally, I love plantains. You know, like I wish every ethnicity restaurant would serve plantains with their food. It's like, to me, it's not just like I love black food. It's like I love plantains. Like, give me fucking some more plantains all the time.
But are people shocked when you go in there and they're like, "Who's this white man who ordered oxtail?" And you?
I'm like the first white guy that a lot of the people have seen in like a week, kind of thing. That's not like some racist fucker on the subway or the bus, right? And yeah, I don't know. Like I don't know.
You're helping them in a way. But like there are some people who only experience white people, and I had to learn that because I grew up with white people. So I'm like, okay, that's just that version of white people. But like people need to have the opportunity to meet a white person who can walk into a Caribbean restaurant and know how to order. And I mean that not just in like reading the menu, but like feel comfortable, not just say, "What's good here? What would you recommend?" And I'm not trying to belittle people who go out to do that, but I'm like, you could do your own research. You could go on Yelp like you do on all these other things. You could and come as an informed, because that's really why people because when people find out I'm not Caribbean or I'm not something, then I get to go. I tell my group on the farm, like, oh, wow, and you know what plantains are? And you cook jollof rice? And I'm like, yeah, like I've been to Ghana. It's just bomb. Why wouldn't I learn? And that's what's like, because people don't value that skill. When you have that ability, I agree with you. It's awesome because people are, but it's also sad because it's like, wow, you're excited that somebody different values your like culture, your food for being good. When most people value it for being good, but they don't communicate that. They don't walk in like I imagine you walking in like, yeah, I'll make sure that I'm not an asshole today. I know you don't say it, but you're fully aware that like you're privileged, and I think that's beautiful. And more people should do it. But they gotta be aware. We gotta sing too. Sorry, I know we keep saying I had this effect. I'm fully aware.
Yeah, me too. Between the two, Eric's just like, oh god, between the two of them, we're never getting out of here. So Jordan, let's get to the part of the show where you and Eric get to sing, because that's one of my favorite parts of the show.
Yeah, and I want to turn on the AC. I purposely have it off because it's like right next to it. But I'm like sweating now, and I'm like, yeah.
See, sitting in front of the computer is rough. So I don't know have you heard the end? No, not really.
The end?
Yeah, have you heard?
No. That's like, is it what song? Like
it kind of just goes like, that's the end of the show. It's time to go.
Rhythm, like clean up, everybody.
Yeah, I would just kind of like sing it up.
I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, but it's only really 3 lines, and then the 4th line you just kind of like make up on.
Quick. Okay.
So it's like, that's the end of the show. It's time to go. Don't want to talk to you no more, and then it's just like some type of like peace.
Either you guys will just say peace, or you can come up with a 4th line that also rhymes to the. It's the end of the show. Don't want to talk to you no more.
With white people.
What's that?
I was not rapping. That's like, oh no, that's where like this is not my element.
I know. That's why I say it's pretty difficult. It's as easy as it sounds. It's difficult.
I learned in college very quick. Everyone's like, rap battle, Jordan, you go. I'm like, all right, let's go. And I had no rhythm, and then so I'm just like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, not my element. I'm in a black frat, and it's like, stepping and strolling, but debate and oratory. I got you. But like, oh no, I'm good. Like, you go ahead.
Well, this isn't so much like
no, this is like, I got it.
This is more like birthday song kind of like song. It's not really like,
I'm that person who thinks of it ahead of time, writes their lyrics, and then acts like they made it up there. Just being real.
Nice. All right, so you want to start it off?
Yeah.
What was it again? What is it? It's come to an end. Sorry, I'm a cadence person, so I'm like, I'm trying to make up a cadence.
Would you want to do like 1, 2, 3, and that's the end of the show.
You ain't gotta be here no more. Now it's time to go. You ain't gotta be here no more.
Yeah. Peace.
Peace.
That was a good.